The universe is a vast, uncharted expanse filled with mysteries that challenge the limits of human understanding. We've uncovered cosmic enigmas that baffle even the greatest minds, black holes that warp space and time, dark matter that invisibly shapes the cosmos, and distant galaxies that seem to defy our understanding of physics. But among these countless cosmic puzzles, one stands out as particularly unsettling: the possibility that there exists an invisible border at the edge of our galaxy, a boundary that halts exploration, disrupts signals, and possibly even acts as a wall to interstellar travel. This is the mystery of the Great Galactic Barrier, an anomaly so profound that it has sparked debates among astrophysicists, conspiracy theorists, and futurists alike. Could there be a cosmic boundary preventing our expansion into the stars? And if so, what could it mean for the future of humanity's spacefaring dreams? To understand the Great Galactic Barrier, we must first consider what a cosmic boundary might look like. Space, as we understand it, is not a uniform void but a landscape of gravitational fields, electromagnetic forces, and cosmic radiation. It is teeming with phenomena that can act as invisible barriers. Some regions of space contain immense radiation belts that fry electronics, while others are dominated by magnetic fields so powerful they can distort entire spacecraft trajectories. Yet the idea of a true galactic barrier, something that prevents matter, energy, or even information from passing beyond a certain point, suggests something far more profound. The concept of a great galactic barrier has roots in multiple scientific observations, each pointing toward an unexplained phenomenon at the edges of our galaxy. One of the first clues comes from radio signals. Attempts to send and receive transmissions from the far reaches of the Milky Way often seem to face an unusual disruption. Some scientists believe this interference could be caused by an unknown form of cosmic radiation, a strange energy field that distorts signals or absorbs them entirely. Others propose that this could be evidence of an extragalactic magnetic field, a force so vast and powerful that it acts as an invisible shield around the Milky Way. A particularly puzzling discovery related to this potential barrier comes from the study of cosmic rays. These high-energy particles, originating from beyond our galaxy, should theoretically bombard the Milky Way in all directions. However, observations suggest that a significant number of them are being deflected or absorbed before they ever reach us. This raises the question: is there an unknown force surrounding our galaxy, redirecting or blocking incoming cosmic rays? If so, what is its nature? Is it a natural consequence of galactic dynamics, or could it be something more artificial? The idea of an artificial galactic barrier leads to even more mind-bending possibilities. Some theorists suggest that an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, far older than humanity, could have constructed a form of cosmic quarantine, a megastructure designed to isolate the Milky Way from the rest of the universe. Such a concept aligns with the Fermi paradox, the question of why we have not yet encountered intelligent alien life. If a barrier exists, it could mean that either we are being intentionally isolated or that something beyond the Milky Way is so dangerous that a civilization long before us decided to erect a shield to keep it out. Another possibility is that the Great Galactic Barrier is not a solid wall but a vast region of space where the laws of physics behave differently. There are theoretical models suggesting that certain regions of the universe could contain variations in the fundamental forces, gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. If such a region exists at the boundary of our galaxy, it could make travel beyond a certain point either impossible or extremely hazardous. This could explain why intergalactic exploration seems to be limited, both for humanity and potentially for other civilizations that might exist within the Milky Way. One of the most speculative but fascinating ideas surrounding the Great Galactic Barrier is that it could be the edge of a simulation. Some physicists and philosophers have proposed that our universe might be a highly advanced simulation, and if that is true, the galactic boundary could be one of its programmed limits. Just as a video game has an invisible wall preventing players from going beyond a certain area, our universe might have similar constraints, preventing us from leaving the Milky Way. While this idea remains highly speculative, it does provide a thought-provoking perspective on the nature of reality itself. There is also the possibility that the barrier is not something permanent, but a temporary phenomenon caused by the dynamics of the universe. Our galaxy is moving through space, interacting with dark matter, cosmic filaments, and intergalactic gas clouds. If the barrier is the result of an interaction with one of these structures, then it might shift, or even disappear over time. Understanding this could require deeper research into cosmic evolution, the movement of galaxies, and the properties of intergalactic space. One of the biggest challenges in studying the Great Galactic Barrier is that we currently lack the technology to send probes far enough to directly measure its effects. Most of our understanding of the galactic edge comes from indirect observations, radio signals, cosmic rays, and gravitational mapping. However, future advancements in space travel, such as light sails, nuclear propulsion, or even theoretical warp drives, might allow us to send probes beyond the barrier and finally determine what lies beyond. The implications of a galactic boundary are profound. If such a structure exists, it could redefine our understanding of the universe and our place within it. Are we trapped within the Milky Way for a reason? Is there something beyond the barrier that we are not meant to see? Or is the barrier simply a natural consequence of galactic physics that we have yet to fully comprehend? The Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of space. It challenges our understanding of physics, raises questions about the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations, and even forces us to reconsider the nature of reality itself. As we continue to explore the cosmos, one thing is certain: our quest for answers will push the boundaries of human knowledge, perhaps one day revealing whether the barrier is a natural feature, a cosmic defense mechanism, or something far beyond our current comprehension. As we continue to explore the enigma of the Great Galactic Barrier, one of the most pressing questions remains: how could we test its existence? If an invisible force or boundary exists at the edge of the Milky Way, we need a way to measure it directly. But our technological limitations present a significant challenge. The furthest human-made object, Voyager 1, has barely left the confines of our solar system. Even at its astonishing speed of over 38,000 miles per hour, it would take thousands of years to reach the edge of the galaxy. This means we must rely on indirect methods, analyzing cosmic radiation, gravitational distortions, and electromagnetic interference, to infer the presence of a potential barrier. One possible avenue for studying the barrier involves high-energy cosmic rays. Scientists have observed peculiar anomalies in the way these particles interact with the edges of the galaxy. Some cosmic rays, expected to reach us from intergalactic space, appear to be deflected or weakened, suggesting that some unknown force is influencing their trajectories. If this phenomenon is not explained by known astrophysical structures such as intergalactic magnetic fields, then we may be dealing with an entirely new force of nature. Could this be evidence of the Great Galactic Barrier? Another perplexing observation is the behavior of fast radio bursts, FRBs. These powerful millisecond-long bursts of radio waves originate from deep space, yet their distribution and frequency of occurrence raise intriguing questions. Some FRBs appear to be scattered or even entirely blocked when attempting to travel through the outer regions of the Milky Way. If there is indeed a boundary at the edge of our galaxy, it could be interfering with these signals, either by absorbing them or refracting them unpredictably. If this is true, it may suggest that the barrier consists of a dense, unknown form of plasma or a field of highly charged particles. The implications of such a phenomenon are staggering. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists as a natural energy field, it could serve as a cosmic shield, protecting the Milky Way from harmful intergalactic radiation. It could also influence the way galaxies form and interact, acting as a kind of boundary that defines the structure of the observable universe. But if this barrier is artificial, if it was deliberately constructed by an advanced extraterrestrial intelligence, then we are dealing with something far beyond our current understanding. Some theorists have proposed that an ancient and highly advanced civilization may have created the barrier to prevent outside interference. If an intelligent species had once thrived in the Milky Way, they may have erected a protective structure to shield themselves from potential cosmic threats, either hostile civilizations or dangerous astrophysical phenomena such as gamma ray bursts. If this is the case, it raises the unsettling possibility that humanity is trapped inside an intergalactic quarantine zone, cut off from the rest of the cosmos. This idea leads us back to the Fermi paradox, the question of why we have not yet detected evidence of intelligent alien life despite the vastness of the universe. If a galactic barrier exists, then the reason we have not received clear extraterrestrial signals may not be due to the absence of alien life, but rather due to the presence of a powerful structure preventing interstellar communication. If an advanced civilization established this boundary long ago, it could mean that extraterrestrial societies beyond the barrier are completely unaware of our existence. Or worse, they are aware of us but deliberately keeping us isolated. One of the most intriguing possibilities is that the Great Galactic Barrier functions as a one-way filter. Some astrophysicists have theorized that matter and energy might be able to leave the Milky Way but not return. If true, this could explain why we do not observe any signs of intelligent extraterrestrial activity within our galaxy. Perhaps those who advanced enough to reach the boundary simply vanished beyond it, never to return. This would imply that intergalactic travel is possible, but with irreversible consequences. But what if the barrier is not just a physical obstacle, but a fundamental aspect of space-time itself? Some exotic theories suggest that the boundary could be the edge of a different kind of space, a transition zone where the laws of physics change. This could mean that time behaves differently beyond the barrier, or that space itself bends in a way that prevents objects from moving past a certain point. If this is true, then the Great Galactic Barrier may not be a physical wall, but a distortion in the very fabric of reality. The notion of space-time distortions at the galactic edge is not entirely without precedent. Scientists studying the large-scale structure of the universe have discovered anomalies that hint at strange gravitational effects. Some regions of space appear to be moving faster than others, suggesting that unknown forces are at play. If the Milky Way is encased in a space-time distortion, it could explain why intergalactic travel is so difficult. This idea ties into one of the most speculative yet thought-provoking theories, that the Great Galactic Barrier is a manifestation of the cosmic horizon. The observable universe is limited by the speed of light and the expansion of space. There are regions of the cosmos so distant that their light will never reach us, effectively making them unreachable. If a similar effect is occurring at the edge of the Milky Way, then we might be experiencing a localized version of the cosmic event horizon. But if this is true, what lies beyond the barrier? If intergalactic space is fundamentally different from the space within our galaxy, it could mean that an entirely new form of matter or energy awaits us beyond the boundary. Some have speculated that dark matter, one of the great unsolved mysteries of physics, could behave differently outside the Milky Way. If the barrier marks a transition between different physical laws, then dark matter might become observable, or new particles could emerge that have never been detected before. If we are to understand the true nature of the Great Galactic Barrier, we will need to develop new methods of observation and exploration. Traditional telescopes and radio signals may not be enough. We may need to invent entirely new technologies capable of detecting and interacting with whatever lies beyond. Concepts such as quantum communication, gravitational wave detection, and even experimental warp drive physics may provide insights into what is happening at the galactic edge. As we stand on the precipice of an era where humanity begins to take its first steps beyond our solar system, the mystery of the Great Galactic Barrier looms over us. If it is real, it could redefine our understanding of the universe, presenting either an insurmountable obstacle or an incredible opportunity. Is it a cosmic firewall, a relic of an ancient civilization, or simply an uncharted frontier that we have yet to cross? The only way to find out is to keep pushing forward. The quest to unravel the secrets of the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a journey into deep space. It is a journey into the unknown limits of human curiosity and imagination. As we advance technologically and philosophically, we may one day reach the boundary, touch it, and step beyond. But until that moment arrives, we are left with only questions. Perhaps the most haunting question of all is this: if the Great Galactic Barrier does exist, then who, or what, put it there? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, the implications stretch far beyond our current understanding of the universe. Could it be a natural phenomenon, The result of galactic forces and interstellar physics that we have yet to comprehend? Or is it something more, a deliberate construct, an artificial boundary placed there by an unknown intelligence? The very idea challenges our perception of the cosmos and our place within it. If this barrier was placed there intentionally, then by whom? Could it be the work of an ancient, hyper-advanced civilization that once roamed the Milky Way? Perhaps they reached an evolutionary pinnacle, discovering secrets of the universe that allowed them to manipulate cosmic structures at will. If they were capable of such an extraordinary feat, what was their purpose? Was the barrier meant to contain something within the galaxy, or was it designed to keep something out? Theories about the Great Galactic Barrier overlap with some of the most perplexing concepts in modern astrophysics. One of the most debated ideas is the notion that space itself is not uniform, that different regions of the universe could have entirely different physical properties. If this is the case, then the barrier may not be a physical structure in the traditional sense, but rather a boundary where the fundamental laws of physics change. Beyond it, gravity, time, and energy might behave in ways we cannot yet predict. Some physicists have suggested that the galaxy might be encased in an energetic field that alters the way matter and energy move. This could explain why intergalactic cosmic rays and fast radio bursts behave unpredictably when they approach the edge of the Milky Way. If an invisible force is present, it could act as a distortion field, warping or even halting the passage of light and radiation from beyond. If so, then we are not just dealing with a physical boundary. We may be looking at an entirely new branch of physics. This leads to another fascinating idea: the possibility that the Great Galactic Barrier is connected to dark energy. Dark energy is the mysterious force driving the accelerated expansion of the universe, yet its properties remain largely unknown. Some researchers have proposed that dark energy is not evenly distributed throughout space, meaning that certain regions, like the outer edges of galaxies, might experience its effects more strongly. If so, the barrier could be the result of a dark energy concentration, forming a natural boundary that defines the limits of the Milky Way. However, the more unsettling possibility is that the barrier is artificial, a remnant of an ancient interstellar war, a quarantine mechanism, or a safeguard against an existential threat. If a super-advanced species once dominated this galaxy, they may have had reasons to restrict travel beyond a certain point. What if they feared something lurking in the void, something powerful enough to warrant sealing off the entire galaxy? If this is true, then the Great Galactic Barrier may not be a sign of isolation, it may be a warning. Could it be that the reason we have not yet encountered extraterrestrial civilizations is that they have all been trapped within their respective galactic domains? If this barrier extends beyond the Milky Way, it may not be unique to us. Other galaxies could be experiencing similar phenomena, each locked within an invisible cosmic prison, unaware of what lies beyond. This would suggest that the universe is not an open frontier but a series of walled-off enclosures, each containing countless civilizations unable to communicate with one another. This concept aligns eerily well with the idea of the dark forest hypothesis, which suggests that intelligent life in the universe remains silent to avoid detection by potentially hostile entities. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, it could be a physical manifestation of this principle, a structure designed to keep civilizations hidden from one another. If so, the most pressing question becomes, who or what is out there that necessitated such extreme measures? Some speculative theories suggest that the barrier could be a form of cosmic censorship, preventing certain types of knowledge or technology from spreading. Perhaps it is designed to limit the development of spacefaring species, ensuring that civilizations do not progress beyond a certain level before they are truly ready. If this is the case, then the existence of the barrier might indicate that we are being monitored, possibly even guided, by an unseen intelligence. But what if the Great Galactic Barrier is not a defensive structure at all? What if it is an ancient transportation system, an intergalactic gateway of sorts? If the barrier is a region where the laws of physics change, then it may function as a natural wormhole generator, allowing for near-instantaneous travel between galaxies. This could explain why we have not yet observed extraterrestrial spacecraft crossing intergalactic space. They may have access to technology that allows them to bypass the conventional constraints of distance. If the barrier does indeed serve as a cosmic highway, then humanity's next great challenge will be deciphering how to use it. Understanding the physics behind such a system could revolutionize space travel, opening pathways to other galaxies and perhaps even entire new realms of existence. The question, however, remains, are we meant to discover this knowledge? Or has the barrier been placed there to ensure that we never do? One way to test the existence of the barrier would be to launch a series of deep space probes specifically designed to detect anomalies at the galactic edge. These probes could measure variations in gravitational fields, electromagnetic interference, and particle behavior. If a sudden shift occurs at the boundary, it could provide direct evidence of the barrier's presence. However, there is also the risk that sending such probes might attract unwanted attention. If the barrier is artificial and maintained by an unknown intelligence, then our attempts to study it might not go unnoticed. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of the universe, the possibility of the Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most compelling and unnerving questions in modern astrophysics. Whether it is a natural phenomenon, an artificial construct, or something beyond our comprehension, it challenges us to rethink everything we know about space, time, and our place in the cosmos. If the barrier is real, then we are faced with an unsettling truth. Humanity may not be alone, but we might never be able to leave our cosmic home. Yet, if we find a way to cross the boundary, to break through whatever force confines us, we may unlock the greatest discovery in the history of our species. We may learn the truth about the universe, and about ourselves. The journey toward understanding the Great Galactic Barrier is only just beginning, but one thing is certain. Whatever lies beyond it, the answer will change everything. If the Great Galactic Barrier truly exists, then its implications extend far beyond just the Milky Way. It could mean that every galaxy is encapsulated within its own cosmic domain, separated from others by invisible walls of unknown origin. The most pressing question, then, is whether such barriers are universal or if some civilizations have already found a way to traverse them. Could there be a hierarchy of intergalactic species, some still trapped within their galactic prisons, while others roam freely, having discovered the key to breaking through? One way to examine this possibility is by looking at the structure of the universe itself. The cosmic web, a vast interconnected lattice of galaxies, suggests that galaxies are not randomly distributed but instead follow a hidden order. If barriers exist at the galactic level, could they also exist at the cosmic web level, dividing entire clusters of galaxies from one another? If so, we may be living in a universe filled with countless isolated domains, each unaware of the others. This idea brings us to an even more mind-bending possibility. What if the Great Galactic Barrier is not a single structure, but a fundamental property of reality? If the fabric of the universe is compartmentalized into different energetic regions, then the laws of physics could vary from one galactic sector to another. In other words, beyond the barrier, we may find an entirely different set of physical rules, perhaps new forms of matter, altered gravitational constants, or even changes in the nature of time itself. The idea that different regions of space could have distinct physical laws is not entirely speculative. Some variations in the fine structure constant, an essential constant of nature, have been detected in distant parts of the universe, suggesting that fundamental forces might not be uniform everywhere. If the Great Galactic Barrier is a manifestation of such a variation, it could explain why space beyond the Milky Way behaves differently in certain respects. Another hypothesis that has gained traction is the possibility that the barrier is a relic of a past cosmic catastrophe, an ancient event that left an imprint on the structure of space itself. Some physicists propose that early in the universe's history, galaxies might have been more interconnected, but a dramatic shift, perhaps a phase transition in the fundamental forces of nature, led to the formation of boundaries that now separate them. This could mean that at one point in cosmic history, intergalactic travel was not only possible but common. If so, what changed? What event could have disrupted the free movement of civilizations across the universe? Could it have been an existential threat? Something so dangerous that it forced the very structure of space to adapt in order to contain it? There is also the unsettling possibility that the barrier is not a passive construct, but an active force, one that responds to attempts to breach it. If this is the case, then we must consider the possibility that any effort to break through could trigger unforeseen consequences. Would the barrier repel or neutralize any technology that attempts to cross it? Or would it react in a way that could endanger the explorers attempting the journey? Some researchers speculate that the Great Galactic Barrier might operate similarly to a cosmic event horizon, where information, energy, or even physical objects could be altered or erased upon crossing. If true, then the very nature of what lies beyond may be unknowable, at least with our current scientific understanding. Could this explain why we have never detected signals from civilizations beyond our galaxy? If they are behind their own barriers, their communications might never reach us, lost to the invisible divide separating us. The most audacious theory, however, is that the barrier is not just a boundary, but a test. What if it serves as a filter that only certain civilizations can pass through? This aligns with the idea of the Great Filter, the hypothesis that at some point in a species' development, it faces a nearly insurmountable obstacle, one that most civilizations fail to overcome. If the Great Galactic Barrier is this test, then it may be the final challenge that determines whether a civilization is ready to expand beyond its home galaxy. If this theory is correct, then the barrier might not be insurmountable at all. It may simply require a level of understanding that we have not yet reached. Perhaps there is a specific energy threshold that must be achieved, a technology that must be developed, or even a form of consciousness that must be attained before the universe allows passage beyond the Milky Way. The idea that the universe itself could be imposing restrictions on intelligent life raises profound philosophical questions. Are we truly in control of our own destiny, or are there higher forces at play, governing what we can and cannot achieve? If the Great Galactic Barrier is an artificial construct, then the entities responsible for it must possess knowledge and power beyond anything we can currently comprehend. Could they still be out there, watching over the boundaries they created? If so, what would happen if we were to make contact? Would they welcome us as equals, or would they see us as a species that has not yet earned the right to step beyond its cosmic confines? And if we were to break through without permission, would there be consequences? These questions lead us to one final, daunting consideration. What if the Great Galactic Barrier exists not to keep us in, but to keep something else out? What if beyond the confines of our galaxy lies an unfathomable danger, one so immense that an ancient intelligence saw fit to construct a universal safeguard against it? If this is the case, then humanity's desire to explore the stars might not lead to a grand cosmic revelation, but instead to a terrifying discovery. The barrier may be protecting us from something we are not ready to face. If we attempt to breach it, we may not find paradise, but a nightmare. Perhaps the silence of the cosmos is not due to a lack of civilizations, but to their collective agreement to remain hidden behind the walls of their own galaxies. If that is true, then the most important question we must ask is, are we truly ready to see what lies beyond? If the Great Galactic Barrier exists to shield us from something, then what could be lurking beyond it? The most terrifying possibility is that the universe is not a welcoming place but a battlefield, one where civilizations that dare to expand too far are met with forces beyond their comprehension. If so, then the silence of the cosmos may not be accidental. It may be the result of a vast, unseen war, one where only those who remain hidden survive. This idea aligns with the dark forest hypothesis, which suggests that the reason we do not detect alien signals is because advanced civilizations remain silent out of fear. If a Great Galactic Barrier exists, then it may serve as an extra layer of protection, ensuring that young, emerging species do not accidentally expose themselves to whatever dangers lie beyond. Perhaps once a civilization reaches a certain level of technological advancement, it is forced to make a choice: remain within the safety of its galactic domain, or risk crossing the boundary and facing whatever awaits on the other side. If the barrier is an active defense mechanism, then what happens when a civilization tries to breach it? Could this explain why we have never observed intergalactic travel? Maybe the reason no evidence of highly advanced galactic-spanning empires exists is because they never survived the transition. If the barrier acts as a cosmic filter, then civilizations that attempt to break through might trigger catastrophic consequences, either through self-destruction or by awakening something that was never meant to be disturbed. One chilling possibility is that the barrier was created to prevent the spread of a cosmic-level threat, something that, if left unchecked, could consume entire galaxies. Some astrophysicists have speculated about the existence of von Neumann probes, self-replicating machines designed to explore and harvest resources across the universe. If an ancient civilization created such machines but lost control of them, they could have become an existential danger, consuming everything in their path. The barrier, in this scenario, would act as a containment field, ensuring that these runaway machines do not spread beyond their point of origin. Another possibility is that the threat is not artificial, but biological. The universe could harbor entities that exist on a scale far beyond our understanding, cosmic predators that lie in wait for civilizations to cross into their domain. If so, then the Great Galactic Barrier may be a warning sign, placed by an unknown intelligence that sought to protect emerging species from a fate worse than extinction. What if there is something beyond the barrier that feeds on intelligent life, consuming entire civilizations before they have a chance to develop further? Perhaps this explains the Fermi paradox, the question of why, in a universe filled with billions of galaxies, we see no signs of intelligent life. If a predator or destructive force exists beyond the barrier, then the reason we have not encountered other civilizations is simple: those that tried to cross the boundary never came back. But what if the barrier is not meant to stop something from coming in, but rather to keep us contained? Some have speculated that our universe could be a kind of experiment, a controlled environment where intelligent life is allowed to evolve under specific conditions. If this is true, then the barrier could be the edge of our cosmic petri dish, a boundary designed to prevent us from interfering with whatever lies beyond. This raises profound philosophical and existential questions. Are we prisoners of our own galaxy, placed here by an unknown intelligence for reasons beyond our understanding? If so, then who or what is observing us? Could it be that our entire reality has been engineered to keep us within certain limits we are only now beginning to challenge? If the barrier is an artificial construct, then it may be possible to dismantle it. But should we? What if breaking through the barrier leads to our downfall? What if we are being protected from a truth too overwhelming for our species to handle? Perhaps the reason we have yet to discover extraterrestrial civilizations is that those who attempted to break free were met with forces that ensured their silence. Maybe there was once a galaxy-spanning civilization that found a way through, only to be wiped out by whatever they encountered. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then we must approach it with caution. Whether it is a natural phenomenon, an artificial construct, or something beyond our comprehension, one thing is certain: it may hold the key to our ultimate destiny. Will humanity one day unlock its secrets, or will we, like so many before us, vanish into the unknown, leaving only silence in our wake? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then its implications for humanity are staggering. It would mean that our understanding of the cosmos is fundamentally incomplete, that there are forces at work far beyond our current grasp. It could mean that we are on the verge of a discovery so immense that it would redefine our place in the universe forever. But would we be ready for such a revelation? Consider the technological leaps we would need to make in order to approach the barrier, let alone study it. If the boundary is a natural phenomenon, such as an energetic field that marks the edge of the Milky Way's influence, then understanding its structure would require physics far beyond what we currently possess. If, however, the barrier is artificial, created by an advanced intelligence for reasons we cannot yet comprehend, then we must ask ourselves, how do we communicate with its creators? Would they even be willing to respond? It is also possible that the barrier is not a single, fixed structure but a dynamic, shifting phenomenon, one that alters its properties depending on who or what approaches it. If this is the case, then any attempt to break through might trigger unforeseen consequences. Could there be civilizations before us that tried and failed? If so, where are they now? If they vanished, did they simply fail to overcome the technological challenges? Or did they meet a fate far more sinister? The idea of a cosmic quarantine is not new, but the Great Galactic Barrier, if real, would be the most extreme version of such a concept. It would imply that the universe is structured in a way that actively prevents certain forms of expansion. This could be for our own protection, or it could be for reasons we cannot even begin to fathom. What if we are being deliberately contained, our development restricted until we reach a certain level of advancement? One theory suggests that civilizations are allowed to exist only within the confines of their own galactic domains, and any attempt to breach this limit results in their destruction or assimilation into something greater. This could mean that there is an intelligence out there that enforces these cosmic borders, ensuring that no species gains too much power too quickly. If such an enforcer exists, then it raises profound ethical and philosophical questions. Who or what gave them the authority to dictate the fate of entire civilizations? Are they benevolent overseers, ensuring balance in the universe? Or are they something far more terrifying, an ancient force that does not tolerate competition? But what if the barrier is not a restriction at all, but a test? What if the moment a civilization discovers it and figures out how to surpass it is the moment they are deemed worthy of joining a larger cosmic order? Perhaps the true nature of the universe is hidden from those who are not ready, and the barrier exists as a way to separate those who are capable of understanding from those who are not. If this is true, then the barrier could be the greatest challenge humanity will ever face. It would mean that our journey beyond the stars is not simply about exploration, but about proving our readiness to take the next step in evolution. And if this is the case, then it also means that the barrier is not just a mystery, it is a destiny. But what happens if we fail? If civilizations before us have tried and been erased from history, then the stakes are unimaginably high. It could mean that failure is not an option, that those who approach the barrier unprepared are simply removed from existence. If so, then humanity must tread carefully. We must decide whether we are ready to face the unknown, to risk everything in the pursuit of something greater. Yet, what if the real mystery is not what lies beyond the barrier, but the fact that it exists at all? If there is a force capable of constructing such a thing, whether it be natural, artificial, or something beyond comprehension, then it implies that the universe is governed by rules we have not yet discovered. And if we do discover those rules, will we be ready to accept what they reveal? The Great Galactic Barrier is more than just a theoretical construct. It is a challenge to everything we believe about the universe. If it exists, then it means that the cosmos is not as open and free as we once thought. It means that there are limits, thresholds, and forces that may not want us to cross them. But humanity has never been content with staying within boundaries. We have always pushed forward, always sought to go beyond what was thought possible. If the barrier is real, then one day, we will find it. And when we do, the question will not be whether we can cross it, but whether we should. If humanity ever reaches the point where we can approach the Great Galactic Barrier, the question of whether we should attempt to cross it will become the most important decision in our history. The unknown has always been a source of both wonder and terror. But this would be more than just another frontier. This would be the threshold between what we know and what we were never meant to know. If the barrier is an energetic field or some kind of gravitational anomaly, then understanding its mechanics might require new branches of physics entirely. Could it be a region where the fabric of space itself behaves differently? A zone where time distorts, or where fundamental forces interact in ways we cannot predict? If so, any attempt to breach it might not just be dangerous, it could be fatal. Imagine a spacecraft that enters the barrier only to find that its engines no longer function because the physical laws inside it are not the same as those outside. What if the barrier marks a shift in reality itself? Some physicists theorize that our universe may not be uniform, but instead made up of different regions where the laws of physics operate differently. If so, then the barrier could be the boundary between one version of reality and another. A civilization attempting to cross it might not just be stepping into another part of the universe. It could be stepping into an entirely different kind of existence, one where survival is impossible. Yet, what if we are not meant to cross it because of something far worse? There is a theory known as the Great Silence, which suggests that the reason we do not detect signals from advanced civilizations is because something is out there silencing them. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then perhaps it is not just a warning, it could be the very thing that enforces this silence. What if the moment a civilization tries to leave its galaxy, it is detected? And what if being detected is the last thing we would ever want? A terrifying thought is that beyond the barrier, something watches. Something waits. And it is only once we make ourselves known that it turns its gaze upon us. This leads to another disturbing question. Is the barrier natural, or was it put there to keep us from drawing attention to ourselves? If it is artificial, then someone, or something, must have created it. But for what purpose? If they were benevolent, would they not have left a message, a way for us to understand why it exists? The absence of such guidance suggests that whatever created it had no interest in explaining itself. It simply put up the wall and left. But perhaps the real reason no one speaks of it is because the civilizations that found it never returned. Maybe the reason the universe seems so empty is because the moment a species gets too close to the barrier, it is wiped out. And if so, is it automatic? Is the barrier itself the enforcer of this rule, destroying anything that attempts to pass? Or is it merely the alarm that triggers something else, something that ensures no one escapes their cosmic confines? Another possibility is that the barrier was placed there not by an enemy, but by something trying to protect us. Imagine if an ancient intelligence discovered a danger beyond the galaxy so great that it required extreme measures to contain. The barrier, in this case, would not be a prison, it would be a fortress, a protective wall meant to keep us safe from horrors we are not yet prepared to face. Could this be the real reason we have not detected intelligent life beyond our galaxy? Perhaps the civilizations that existed before us learned the hard way that some things should never be disturbed. Maybe they left the barrier as their last act, a warning to those who would come after them. If this is true, then any attempt to breach it would not just risk our own extinction, it might risk the safety of everything in the universe. Yet, the most unsettling possibility of all is that the barrier is not permanent. What if it is weakening? If it was created eons ago, then it is possible that the forces that sustain it are beginning to erode. And if the barrier falls, not because we break it, but because time wears it down, then what happens next? If it was built to keep something out, then when it collapses, that thing will be free. Would we even recognize it if it arrived? Would it be a physical force, a vast and incomprehensible intelligence, or something else entirely, something that does not obey the laws of space and time as we understand them? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then we are faced with a paradox. If we cross it, we may risk everything. But if we do not, we may never know the truth. And if it is collapsing, then we may not have a choice in the matter at all. Perhaps, at this very moment, something is already approaching from the other side. And when it reaches us, we will finally have our answer. If the Great Galactic Barrier is truly a cosmic border, then it could change everything we think we know about the universe. It suggests that our galaxy is not just a random collection of stars and planets floating in an endless void but rather a contained space, separated from the rest of the cosmos by an unseen force. This would mean that the universe is not as open as we believed. Instead of a vast and freely navigable expanse, it could be a series of confined realms, each separated by some unknown boundary. The implications of this are staggering. If our galaxy is enclosed within such a barrier, then so too might every other galaxy. The universe might not be a single, continuous space but rather a fragmented collection of isolated domains, each unaware of the others. This would explain why we have never received signals from alien civilizations. Perhaps they are out there, just as we are, but trapped within their own galactic prisons, unable to communicate beyond the barriers that surround them. But why would such a structure exist? The laws of physics, as we understand them, do not predict anything like this. There is no known reason for a force field or a cosmic boundary to naturally form around a galaxy. If it exists, it must have a purpose. Either it arose from some strange and unknown phenomenon in the early universe, or it was deliberately placed there by an intelligence far beyond our comprehension. If it is a natural phenomenon, then we must ask what could create such a thing. Could the barrier be a relic of the universe's formation? A leftover remnant of some ancient process that once shaped the galaxies? Some scientists have speculated that the universe may have undergone phase transitions in its early history, much like how water can freeze into ice or boil into steam. Perhaps our galaxy exists in a different phase of space-time compared to the void beyond the barrier. This could mean that trying to cross the barrier would be like trying to step from one state of matter into another, an act that could have unpredictable and catastrophic consequences. Alternatively, the barrier could be the result of an interaction between dark energy and dark matter. We know that most of the universe is made up of these mysterious substances, yet we do not fully understand how they behave. It is possible that, under certain conditions, dark energy could form a kind of repulsive boundary, pushing galaxies apart and creating regions of space that are effectively inaccessible. This would mean that the barrier is not a solid wall but rather an area of extreme spatial distortion, where normal physics no longer applies. But if the barrier is not natural, if it was put there deliberately, then we must consider an even more unsettling possibility. Who or what could have created it? And why? The idea of an ancient and vastly superior civilization constructing such a structure is both fascinating and terrifying. If they built it, then they must have had a reason. Was it meant to protect us? Or was it meant to contain us? One possibility is that we are part of a larger experiment. If an advanced civilization wanted to study the development of intelligent life, they might create barriers around different galaxies to ensure that each one evolved in isolation. This would allow them to observe how civilizations develop under different conditions, without interference from external factors. If this is the case, then we are essentially living inside a cosmic petri dish, being watched by beings who are far beyond our level of understanding. Another possibility is that the barrier is a quarantine. If something dangerous exists beyond our galaxy, then the barrier might be there to keep it from reaching us. This would imply that the universe is not as empty as we think, that there is something lurking out there, something so dangerous that an entire civilization saw fit to seal off entire galaxies to prevent its spread. But what could be so dangerous that it would require such extreme measures? Could it be a hostile alien species, one that is so advanced and so aggressive that even the most powerful civilizations fear it? Or could it be something even worse, something that does not conform to any of our ideas of life and intelligence? Some theorists have speculated about the existence of exotic intelligences, entities that are so alien that they do not operate within the boundaries of biology or technology as we understand them. These beings could be more like forces of nature than traditional life forms, existing on a scale that we cannot even comprehend. If such entities exist, then perhaps the barrier is the only thing keeping them at bay. There is also the unsettling thought that the barrier was not put there to keep something out, but to keep something in. What if our galaxy is the anomaly? What if we are the ones who are being contained, not for our own protection, but for the protection of the rest of the universe? If this is the case, then the question becomes, why? Could it be that intelligent life itself is the threat? Maybe every civilization that reaches a certain level of technological advancement inevitably becomes too dangerous to be allowed to spread. If a civilization developed a form of weaponry that could threaten the structure of reality itself, then it might be necessary to confine them within their own galaxy before they could do any harm. This would mean that the barrier is a kind of failsafe, designed to prevent us from unleashing something catastrophic upon the rest of the cosmos. But if we are the ones being contained, then what happens when we finally reach the barrier? If we try to cross it, will we trigger some kind of response? If the creators of the barrier are still watching, they might intervene the moment we attempt to breach it. But what if they are not? What if they abandoned this part of the universe long ago, leaving the barrier as an automated system? In that case, could we find a way to disable it? And if we do, would we regret it? Another haunting possibility is that the barrier is not permanent. What if it was designed to last for a certain period of time, but is now beginning to decay? If it was created millions or even billions of years ago, then it is possible that its power is weakening. If this is happening, then we might not need to break through it, eventually it might fall on its own. But if that happens, then we will have no control over what comes next. Imagine waking up one day to find that the sky has changed. Stars that were once distant points of light are now visible in impossible detail. Strange, unrecognizable constellations appear where there were none before. Radio signals flood our instruments, carrying messages that are ancient, alien, and indecipherable. And then, something arrives. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it may be the single most important discovery in human history. It would redefine our understanding of the universe and our place in it. It would force us to confront questions that we may not be ready to answer. And it would present us with a choice: to remain within the confines of our galaxy, forever wondering what lies beyond, or to take the risk of crossing a boundary that was never meant to be crossed. Perhaps, one day, we will find the answer. Or perhaps the answer will find us. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then its consequences reach far beyond our understanding of physics and cosmology. It would shake the very foundation of our reality. If it is an artificial structure, then it forces us to confront a truth that humanity has long speculated but never confirmed: that we are not alone. It would suggest the presence of an intelligence so vast and ancient that it has the capability to shape the structure of galaxies themselves. This raises a haunting question: if such an intelligence exists, why have they chosen to remain hidden? Perhaps the builders of the barrier, if they exist, do not wish to be found. They may have placed the barrier not only as a physical boundary but as a psychological one, a way to prevent civilizations from looking too far beyond their place in the cosmos. By enclosing a civilization within a galactic domain, they ensure that its inhabitants do not become aware of a greater reality until they are truly prepared to face it. This could mean that the universe follows a kind of cosmic protocol, where intelligent species are given the illusion of an open universe but are, in reality, growing and evolving in isolated pockets, only allowed to advance beyond their borders when they reach a specific level of development. If this is the case, then it is possible that humanity is on the verge of breaking through. Our rapid technological advancements, our exploration of space, and our increasing ability to manipulate matter at the quantum level could all be signs that we are nearing the point where we are ready to transcend the barrier. If this is true, then we may soon experience first contact, not because we reach out to other civilizations, but because the architects of the barrier determine that we are ready to join the wider galactic community. But what if we are not meant to cross the barrier? What if its presence is a warning, rather than an invitation? There is an unsettling possibility that our galaxy was sealed off because something went terribly wrong in the distant past. Perhaps there was a war, one so catastrophic that the only solution was to isolate certain regions of space to prevent further devastation. If this is true, then the barrier might not be protecting us from an external threat, it could be protecting the rest of the universe from us. This idea aligns with the concept of the Great Filter, a theory that attempts to explain why we have not encountered extraterrestrial civilizations despite the vastness of the universe. The Great Filter suggests that at some point in a civilization's development, there is a nearly insurmountable obstacle that prevents it from reaching an interstellar stage. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it could be the manifestation of that filter, a deliberate mechanism designed to prevent civilizations from advancing beyond a certain threshold. But what if the barrier is failing? If it was constructed billions of years ago, then it is possible that its power is beginning to wane. If this is happening, then we are on the cusp of an event unlike anything in human history. We may be the first species in our galaxy to witness the crumbling of the barrier, the slow unraveling of the force that has kept us isolated for eons. If it collapses, we may suddenly find ourselves exposed to a universe that has been hidden from us for all of recorded history. This moment would be both exhilarating and terrifying. If the barrier falls, what happens next? Do we step into the unknown, finally free to explore the wider universe? Or do we find ourselves face to face with something that was never meant to be unleashed? If the barrier is artificial, then we must ask who built it, and whether they are still watching. If they are, then they may intervene the moment we attempt to cross it. They may have safeguards in place, automated defense systems, warning signals, or even an active presence ensuring that no civilization breaches the boundary. If this is the case, then our first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence might not be a peaceful exchange, but an immediate confrontation with the wardens of the cosmic prison we never knew we were in. But if they are no longer watching, if the builders of the barrier have long since vanished, then we may be stepping into an abandoned and unknown realm. The wider universe may be nothing like we imagined. It could be desolate, ruined, or filled with remnants of a civilization that once ruled the stars but is now long gone. If so, we would have no guidance, no warnings, only the vast emptiness of a universe that once held beings powerful enough to shape entire galaxies. And yet, another possibility looms. What if the barrier is not meant to keep civilizations like ours trapped, but rather to keep something else from entering? What if the space beyond the barrier is not a paradise of intergalactic civilizations but a realm of chaos, danger, or something beyond our comprehension? If this is true, then breaking through the barrier might not be a moment of triumph but a catastrophic mistake. It is possible that beyond the barrier lies something ancient and patient, waiting for an opportunity to return. Something that the builders of the barrier fought to contain, something that must not be allowed to enter our galaxy. If the barrier is failing, then whatever lurks beyond may already be aware of us. It may be watching, waiting for the moment when the last remnants of the barrier dissolve. The idea that our galaxy has been protected from an external force for billions of years is unsettling. It suggests that our place in the universe is not random, but rather the result of a careful and deliberate act. It means that we have been living under the illusion of isolation, unaware that something vast and unknown has been kept at bay, just beyond our reach. But what happens when we finally see beyond the veil? What happens when the barrier, whether artificial or natural, finally gives way? Will we find a universe teeming with life, welcoming us into a grand civilization that has been waiting for us to join them? Or will we discover that we were better off never knowing what lay beyond? Perhaps the truth is something even stranger than we can imagine. The Great Galactic Barrier could be a test, a riddle, or even a fundamental aspect of reality itself. If it exists, then it may be the ultimate key to understanding not just the universe, but the nature of existence. If humanity continues to advance, then one day, we may stand at the edge of the barrier, staring into the unknown. The decision to cross it will define our species forever. It will be the moment when we either join the greater cosmic order, or learn too late that we were never meant to leave. If humanity does one day reach the Great Galactic Barrier, if such a structure truly exists, then we will face a moment of profound significance. The decision to cross it will not be taken lightly. It will not merely be a technological challenge but a philosophical and existential one. Do we dare to break through and explore what lies beyond? Or do we heed the possibility that it was put there for a reason, a warning left behind by forces far beyond our understanding? The concept of a cosmic border forces us to rethink everything we assume about the universe. If there is a boundary preventing civilizations from expanding beyond a certain point, then we must ask, has any species ever successfully broken through? If so, where are they? If not, what happened to those who tried? There is a chance that civilizations throughout history have attempted to breach the barrier, only to vanish without a trace, their entire existence erased from the cosmic record. If we do attempt to cross, we may not be the first. The echoes of past civilizations may still linger in the form of abandoned spacecraft, derelict stations, or inexplicable artifacts floating near the edge of the barrier. These remnants could serve as clues, warnings left behind by those who came before us. What if we find evidence that they tried and failed? Would we still press forward, or would we turn back, accepting that some mysteries are better left unsolved? Another possibility is that the barrier itself is not just a physical construct but an energy field, a spatial anomaly, or even a manipulation of reality itself. If it is something more than a tangible structure, then attempting to cross it could have unexpected consequences. It might distort time, trap us in a loop, or even erase our very existence. If the barrier is a construct of hyper-advanced physics, then breaking through it may require an understanding of the universe that we simply do not possess yet. Some physicists speculate that if such a boundary exists, it could be linked to the fundamental nature of the cosmos. Perhaps it is connected to the cosmic web, the vast network of filaments that connect galaxies across the universe. If so, then disturbing it might trigger effects on a scale we cannot predict. It could destabilize entire regions of space, disrupt the flow of dark energy, or even alter the very fabric of spacetime itself. But if we assume that the barrier was created by an intelligent force, then we must ask why it was placed there in the first place. One theory suggests that it is a form of cosmic quarantine, isolating developing civilizations until they are deemed mature enough to join the larger galactic community. If so, then it may not be a barrier meant to stop us forever but a test, a gateway that only opens when we are truly ready. This leads to a chilling possibility. What if the moment we attempt to break through, we are judged? If there is an intelligence monitoring the barrier, then they may be waiting for civilizations to prove themselves before granting access. How would such an intelligence measure worthiness? Would it judge us by our technological advancements, our ethical progress, or something beyond our comprehension? If we are deemed unworthy, then the consequences could be severe. The architects of the barrier may have protocols in place to deal with civilizations that attempt to breach it prematurely. Perhaps they wipe out those who try, resetting them to an earlier stage of development, or even erasing them entirely. If the galaxy is dotted with planets that once held intelligent life but are now barren, could they be the result of civilizations that failed the test? But if we are deemed worthy, if we pass whatever cosmic threshold is required, then the implications are staggering. The universe beyond the barrier may be home to an intergalactic civilization that spans across galaxies, a community of advanced species who have long since surpassed the struggles that still plague us. If they exist, then they may have been watching us for millennia, waiting for the moment when we finally reach the threshold. Would they welcome us with open arms, eager to share their knowledge and technology? Or would they see us as a potential threat, an unpredictable species that has finally outgrown its containment? If the latter is true, then first contact may not be peaceful. It may be a confrontation, one where we are forced to prove that we are not a danger to the wider cosmic order. And yet, there remains another possibility, one that is perhaps even more unsettling. What if the barrier is not there to stop us from getting out, but to stop something else from getting in? What if the architects of the barrier are not benevolent watchers but desperate survivors of an ancient war, one that nearly destroyed the universe? If this is the case, then the moment we breach the barrier, we may not find enlightenment and unity. We may awaken something that has been sealed away for eons. The galaxy could be a fragile bubble of safety, an isolated refuge in an otherwise hostile cosmos. If we open the barrier, we may not be welcomed, we may be consumed. This would suggest that the Great Galactic Barrier is not a mere construct but a lifeline, a desperate measure taken by those who came before us to protect what little remains of a once thriving universe. If so, then our greatest mistake would be to assume that we are meant to break through. The moment we do, we may set into motion a chain of events that we cannot control. But how would we ever know the truth? How could we ever be certain that the barrier is meant to be crossed, or left untouched? Perhaps this is the ultimate cosmic dilemma, one that every civilization must face. Some may choose caution, remaining within their boundaries for eternity, never knowing what lies beyond. Others may choose to venture forward, risking everything for the chance to uncover the ultimate truth. If we are the first to reach the barrier, then we will set the precedent for all who come after us. Our choice will determine not just our fate, but the fate of countless civilizations yet to be born. Will we choose to remain in the safety of the known, or will we take the leap into the unknown, accepting whatever consequences may come? Perhaps the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a mystery, it is the final question, the ultimate test of what it means to be an intelligent species. And the answer we choose will define our destiny forever. If the Great Galactic Barrier is truly real, then its purpose remains the most profound question in the history of human exploration. The moment we decide to breach it, we will either achieve the greatest breakthrough in the history of our species or make a mistake from which we can never recover. But what if we have already received hints about the nature of this boundary without realizing it? One possibility is that certain cosmic anomalies we have already observed, strange radio signals, inexplicable voids in the cosmos, and bizarre gravitational disturbances, are not random at all. Instead, they could be evidence of the barrier itself, or the activity of those who built it. Some of the most mysterious radio bursts, such as fast radio bursts, FRBs, could be echoes of past civilizations trying to communicate through or beyond the boundary. Consider the enigmatic nature of the Boötes void, a massive region of space almost completely devoid of galaxies. Some astronomers have speculated that such voids could be unnatural, Perhaps even the remnants of regions that were once full of life but were somehow erased. Could these voids be locations where past civilizations tried and failed to breach the barrier, triggering a catastrophic event? If so, then these regions of dead space may serve as cosmic graveyards, silent warnings to any species that dares to repeat the same mistake. Then there's the Fermi paradox. The question of why we have not detected signs of extraterrestrial civilizations despite the overwhelming likelihood that they should exist. One possible explanation is that the Great Galactic Barrier acts as a filter, preventing intelligent species from expanding beyond a certain threshold. If this is the case, then any civilization that reaches a certain level of technological progress may either be destroyed, suppressed, or trapped within their own galactic domain. But how would the barrier actually function? If it is a physical structure, then it would have to be immense beyond imagination, stretching across vast regions of space. Constructing such a structure would require engineering capabilities far beyond anything we can currently comprehend. It might be composed of exotic materials, such as megastructures made of pure dark matter or quantum energy fields that warp spacetime itself. If such a structure exists, then it might not even be visible to us using conventional telescopes. It could be hidden in plain sight, detectable only through its gravitational influence, or the way it interacts with cosmic radiation. If, instead, the barrier is an artificial energy field, then it might act as a form of cosmic censorship, blocking or distorting any signals that attempt to pass through it. This could explain why we have not detected extraterrestrial civilizations. Perhaps their signals cannot travel past the boundary. It would also mean that any attempts to send probes or spacecraft beyond the barrier might fail, with the crafts mysteriously disappearing or being redirected back toward the galaxy. And what if the barrier is not just a passive structure but an active defense mechanism? If it was constructed as a means of containment, then any attempt to breach it might trigger an automatic response. It could be programmed to neutralize threats, deploying forces or technologies beyond our comprehension. Perhaps civilizations that reach the barrier are not only stopped but actively erased from existence, explaining why the universe seems so eerily silent. This possibility raises yet another chilling question. If the Great Galactic Barrier was created by an advanced intelligence, is it still being maintained? If it is an ancient construct, then perhaps it has long since been abandoned, left as a relic of a forgotten age. But if it is still operational, then something, or someone, must be overseeing it. Are there cosmic gatekeepers, entities whose sole purpose is to monitor and enforce the restrictions of the barrier? If so, then they may already be aware of our growing technological progress. They may be watching, waiting to see if we will attempt to breach the boundary. If we ever reach the point where we can attempt to cross the barrier, we will face an impossible choice. Do we risk everything to uncover the truth, or do we accept that some mysteries are better left unsolved? The history of human exploration suggests that we will not be able to resist the temptation to push forward. We have always sought to break through the unknown, regardless of the dangers. But this time, the consequences may be far greater than anything we have ever encountered before. And if we do break through, what will we find? Will we discover a universe far grander and more populated than we ever imagined? Or will we find ourselves standing on the precipice of an unfathomable abyss, facing forces that were never meant to be disturbed? Perhaps, the greatest mystery of the Great Galactic Barrier is not whether it exists, but whether we should ever attempt to cross it. But what if, against all odds, we do cross the barrier? What happens next? If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then breaking through it would be an event unlike any in the history of our species. It would signify that we have achieved a level of technological and scientific mastery that transcends anything we have ever known. But what we find beyond it could change everything. Our understanding of reality, our place in the cosmos, and perhaps even the fundamental laws of physics themselves. One possibility is that the universe beyond the barrier is completely different from what we are used to. Space-time itself may function differently, with new physical laws governing motion, energy, and even consciousness. The fundamental constants of nature, such as the speed of light, gravity, and quantum mechanics, might be altered beyond the barrier, making conventional space travel impossible. If this is the case, then those who cross may never be able to return. But what if the barrier is not just a one-way threshold? What if crossing it means we are instantly perceived by whatever lies beyond? If an advanced intelligence created the barrier, then it might not just be a wall. It could also be a warning system, designed to detect any entity that dares to step beyond it. In that case, the very act of breaching the barrier might alert something that has been waiting, watching, and ensuring that no one gets through. The implications of such a scenario are terrifying. We could be walking into the domain of a civilization so advanced that it does not see us as equals but as insignificant intruders. They may have established the barrier to prevent primitive civilizations like ours from interfering with their domain. Or even worse, they may see the barrier as a test, a cosmic filter to see which civilizations are reckless enough to cross it. Those who do might be deemed threats and eliminated before they can become a problem. There is also the possibility that the barrier is not just a wall but a gateway. Instead of merely blocking expansion, it could serve as a transition point between different layers of reality. Some physicists have theorized that our universe may be just one of many in a vast multiverse. The barrier could be the boundary between universes, separating different realms of existence. If that is true, then breaching the barrier might not just take us deeper into space. It could take us into an entirely new dimension of reality, one where life, time, and space itself function in ways we cannot comprehend. If civilizations exist beyond the barrier, they may be completely unlike anything we have ever imagined. They could be beings of pure energy, entities that exist outside the constraints of matter and time. They might not perceive reality in the way we do, and communication with them could be impossible. If they are vastly older than us, they may have reached a state of existence where physical expansion is meaningless to them. They may have long since abandoned the need for planets, stars, or even galaxies, existing instead as vast, non-corporeal intelligences that span the fabric of the universe itself. But what if the barrier was put in place to protect us rather than to keep us out? What if it is not a prison but a shield? It is possible that whatever lies beyond the barrier is not something we are meant to see, not yet. Perhaps the universe beyond is chaotic, filled with cosmic horrors, gravitational storms, or realities that would shatter the human mind. If this is true, then the barrier is the only thing keeping us safe. Crossing it would mean exposing ourselves to forces beyond our comprehension, forces that could annihilate us instantly. Some have speculated that the barrier is not artificial at all but a natural feature of the universe. It could be a kind of cosmic event horizon, a boundary that marks the edge of observable space. If that is the case, then crossing it might not be physically possible, no matter how advanced we become. Instead, we may reach a point where space itself curves away from us, preventing any further progress. If that is true, then the Great Galactic Barrier may be a fundamental limit imposed by the structure of the universe itself. Yet, if we have learned anything from human history, it is that limits are meant to be broken. If the barrier exists, then one day, we will reach it. And when we do, the choice will be ours. Do we take the risk and step into the unknown, or do we accept that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved? The answer to that question may define the fate of our species. If we choose to cross the barrier, then we will either enter a new age of cosmic discovery, or we will vanish, joining the silent echoes of those who came before us, lost forever in the endless void beyond. If we ever do cross the Great Galactic Barrier, the consequences could be more profound than we can possibly imagine. The universe may have rules we have yet to understand, boundaries that were never meant to be broken. If we breach this cosmic threshold, we may find ourselves in an environment where our technology, our understanding of physics, and even our own biology no longer function as they once did. The very laws of reality could change beyond the barrier, presenting us with a challenge unlike anything humanity has ever faced. One of the most unsettling possibilities is that the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a physical limit but a psychological or existential one. Some researchers and philosophers have speculated that our perception of reality is limited to what we are biologically and cognitively capable of understanding. If the barrier exists, it may represent the edge of human comprehension. Beyond it, we might encounter forces, entities, or structures so foreign that they do not just defy physics but defy thought itself. Imagine trying to describe a three-dimensional world to a two-dimensional being. Now apply that concept to an intelligence encountering a reality far beyond its own understanding. If the barrier is truly impenetrable, then it raises the question, who or what placed it there? Could it be a remnant of a lost civilization, an ancient race that achieved cosmic dominance, and then decided to retreat from the observable universe? If they established the barrier, it could be for any number of reasons. Perhaps they reached a level of technological advancement so extreme that they saw no further need for expansion, choosing instead to isolate themselves within a contained region of space. Or maybe they encountered something so dangerous beyond the barrier that they sealed it off to prevent others from making the same mistake. Some theorists have drawn parallels between the idea of a Great Galactic Barrier and the concept of the dark forest theory in the Fermi paradox. This theory suggests that the universe is silent not because intelligent life is rare, but because civilizations that reveal themselves are swiftly eliminated by more advanced ones. If the barrier is part of this dark forest scenario, then it may be a test, a way to determine which civilizations are reckless enough to attempt to cross it. Those that do may attract the attention of an entity or force that ensures they never return. Yet, there is an alternative possibility, that the barrier is not meant to keep us out, but rather to keep something else in. What if the universe beyond the barrier is a prison, designed to contain something so incomprehensibly dangerous that no civilization has ever dared to release it? If this is the case, then crossing the barrier would not just put humanity at risk, it could endanger the entire cosmos. Another unsettling thought is that the barrier may not be a static structure but a dynamic one, constantly shifting and adjusting based on our level of advancement. If it is an artificial construct, then whoever or whatever created it may still be observing us, waiting to see if we develop the means to break through. If the barrier is an intelligence test, then our ability to cross it may determine whether we are worthy of joining a higher cosmic order, or if we are doomed to be erased before we become a threat. But what if the barrier is something even stranger, something not designed by an alien race, but by the universe itself? Some physicists have suggested that space-time may have inherent constraints, preventing any civilization from reaching a certain level of expansion. If the barrier is a natural phenomenon, it may be the result of unknown forces governing the structure of reality. It could be an unavoidable limit, like the event horizon of a black hole, beyond which space and time break down in ways we cannot yet predict. Yet, despite all the potential dangers, one thing is certain: if the barrier exists, humanity will eventually attempt to cross it. It is in our nature to push boundaries, to explore, to challenge the unknown. We have done it countless times before, whether by sailing into uncharted oceans, climbing the highest peaks, or venturing beyond our atmosphere into the void of space. The Great Galactic Barrier, if real, is just another frontier waiting to be challenged. The consequences of crossing it could be disastrous, but the potential rewards are equally profound. If we survive, we may unlock the secrets of the universe, encounter civilizations beyond anything we have ever imagined, and expand our understanding of existence itself. But if we fail, then we may join the countless others, if they exist, who tried and were never heard from again. For now, we are left with questions. Is the Great Galactic Barrier real? If it is, who or what created it? Is it meant to keep us out, or is it holding something back? And if we ever reach it, will we dare to cross? These are questions that may not be answered for centuries, perhaps even millennia. But one day, whether by accident or by design, we will face the ultimate decision: to remain within the known universe, safe within the cosmic walls we were born into, or to step beyond them, into the great, terrifying, and exhilarating unknown. If we ever reach the Great Galactic Barrier and find a way to cross it, what awaits us on the other side? This question might be the most important mystery in the entire universe. Is it simply more space, vast, empty, and uncharted? Or is it something beyond human comprehension? If civilizations before us have encountered the barrier and failed to cross it, what does that mean for us? Are we at risk of making the same mistakes, or could we be the first to finally uncover the truth? One of the most terrifying possibilities is that the barrier is not just a physical construct, but an existential threshold, a point beyond which our very nature as beings of this universe breaks down. Could it be that we are confined to a specific, domain, of reality, with different regions of the cosmos governed by different fundamental laws? If the Great Galactic Barrier separates one such domain from another, then passing through it might alter space, time, and even the nature of existence itself. Some speculative physicists have proposed that different regions of the universe might have different physical constants, meaning the speed of light, the strength of gravity, or even the very structure of atoms could change beyond the barrier. If this is the case, our ships, our bodies, and even our thoughts might not function the same way beyond the threshold. The simple act of crossing it could be the end of our journey, not because of an external force stopping us, but because we ourselves would cease to exist in a recognizable form. But what if the barrier is something even more perplexing? Some researchers have considered the idea that it could be a kind of simulation boundary, a limit set by an advanced intelligence, or even the universe itself. If reality is a simulation, then the barrier could represent the edge of the programmed world, a point where the illusion begins to break down. Could this mean that everything we perceive is an artificial construct, and that beyond the barrier lies the true nature of existence? If so, then the Great Galactic Barrier might not be a wall at all, it could be a test. A test to see whether we are capable of breaking out of the illusion, to determine whether we are ready to ascend to a higher state of being. And if that is the case, then it may be that civilizations before us have faced this very moment, standing on the precipice of discovery, only to fail or disappear entirely. Yet, there is another possibility, one that is both thrilling and terrifying. What if the barrier is not just an edge, but a warning? If it is truly artificial, then someone, or something, must have put it there. What if it was constructed not to keep us in, but to keep something else out? Imagine that beyond the barrier lies a region of the universe where entirely different rules apply, where beings of unimaginable power reside. These entities could be so advanced that they view us the way we see ants, beneath their notice, unless we start interfering with their domain. If this is the case, then the barrier might not just be for our protection, but for the preservation of our very existence. Perhaps the universe is not as empty as it seems. Maybe it is teeming with life, but much of that life exists in regions beyond the Great Galactic Barrier. If that is true, then the civilizations that remain on this side of the barrier may have been deliberately contained, either as an experiment, or as a precautionary measure. Could it be that our known galaxy is a kind of quarantine zone, shielding us from an overwhelming cosmic reality that we are not yet prepared to face? And what if we cross the barrier anyway? What if, in our relentless pursuit of knowledge, we decide to break through, ignoring the warnings and venturing into the unknown? Would we be welcomed? Or would we be instantly erased by forces that do not wish for us to leave our cosmic prison? The more we contemplate the Great Galactic Barrier, the more it resembles a paradox. If it exists, then it means there is something significant beyond it. If it does not exist, then why have we encountered so many dead ends when trying to explore the limits of our galaxy? The answer to this enigma may lie in the distant future, when humanity has developed the technology to reach the farthest edges of the cosmos. But will we ever truly be ready? If the barrier is an intelligence filter, then we may only cross it when we have evolved beyond our current state, perhaps merging with machines, unlocking new dimensions of thought, or even transcending physical form altogether. If it is a protective measure, then we may one day have to make a fateful decision, to obey the boundaries set for us or to risk everything by venturing beyond them. There is also the possibility that we will reach the barrier and find nothing at all, no wall, no force field, no cosmic boundary. If that happens, then we must ask ourselves, was the barrier ever real, or was it simply a limitation of our own perception? If there was never an actual border to cross, then perhaps the true challenge lies in overcoming our own fears, our own doubts, and our own assumptions about what is possible. One way or another, the Great Galactic Barrier represents the ultimate challenge for humanity. It is the final frontier in every sense of the word. If we dare to push beyond it, we may either uncover the greatest mysteries of the cosmos or face an ending we cannot comprehend. The only certainty is that, someday, we will have to make the choice. If humanity ever reaches the Great Galactic Barrier and finds a way to cross it, the nature of reality itself may change forever. But one of the biggest questions remains, is the barrier something external, or is it something psychological, an invisible limit imposed by our own understanding of the universe? Could it be that we simply haven't evolved enough to perceive what lies beyond? Throughout history, every time humanity has pushed past its known limits, it has uncovered something unimaginable. The first explorers who sailed beyond the horizon discovered new lands. The scientists who broke the boundaries of classical physics uncovered the quantum world. If the Great Galactic Barrier is just another threshold, then perhaps its greatest secret is that it was never really there in the first place, only a product of our own limited knowledge. However, if the barrier is real, it could be a construct far beyond our comprehension. Some theories suggest it may be a form of space-time distortion, a naturally occurring cosmic boundary created by the fundamental laws of the universe. If this is the case, it might act as a kind of cosmic event horizon, one that traps or redirects anything that comes too close. It could be the result of an unknown force, something more powerful than anything we've ever encountered. Another possibility is that the barrier is an artificial construct, created by an advanced intelligence. If an ancient civilization once ruled the galaxy, or even the entire universe, perhaps they designed the barrier to regulate cosmic expansion, keeping different regions of space separate for unknown reasons. Maybe it is a containment field, meant to prevent certain forms of life from crossing into restricted zones. But if this is true, then we have to ask, who or what built it? And what purpose does it truly serve? Could it be that civilizations before us have tried to cross it and failed? If so, what happened to them? Did they vanish, destroyed by an unseen force? Or did they succeed in crossing, only to disappear into an existence so alien that we can no longer recognize them? One of the most unsettling ideas is that the barrier is not meant to keep us in but to keep something else out. What if beyond the barrier lies something truly incomprehensible, something that has been deliberately sealed away from our reality? If the universe is home to beings or forces far more advanced than us, then the barrier might serve as a form of protection. It could be a warning, a line that should never be crossed. In this scenario, the question becomes, what happens if we ignore the warning? What if we break through and encounter something that should have remained hidden? This concept has been explored in science fiction, where humanity's reckless curiosity leads to the awakening of something ancient and powerful. But what if this isn't fiction at all? What if the Great Galactic Barrier is a real test, one that civilizations before us have faced and failed? There is also the possibility that the barrier is a kind of cosmic intelligence filter. In the same way that only certain species on Earth develop intelligence, maybe only certain civilizations in the universe are capable of passing beyond this threshold. Perhaps the barrier only allows those who have reached a certain level of technological or philosophical development to proceed. If this is true, then it may not be a physical barrier at all but rather a conceptual one, something we will only overcome when we are ready. But then another question arises. If there are other civilizations out there, why haven't they reached us? If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then it might be the answer to the Fermi paradox, the question of why we see no evidence of alien life despite the vastness of the universe. Maybe intelligent life is common, but very few species ever make it past the barrier. If we eventually find ourselves at the edge of the barrier, faced with the choice to cross or turn back, how will we decide? Will we be cautious, or will we push forward without hesitation? The answer to that question may determine not just our fate, but the fate of our entire species. The Great Galactic Barrier represents the ultimate unknown. If it exists, then it is the greatest challenge humanity will ever face. And if it does not exist, then the real mystery is why we have been unable to find anything beyond a certain point. One way or another, the moment we attempt to cross it will be the most important event in human history. And when that moment comes, we may finally learn the truth, whether we are truly alone, whether the universe is far stranger than we ever imagined, and whether we are ready to face whatever lies beyond. The nature of the Great Galactic Barrier, if it exists, presents a paradox that could redefine our understanding of the universe. Is it a physical blockade preventing matter from moving past a certain point? A region where space-time behaves differently, warping anything that approaches? Or is it an informational boundary, something that prevents civilizations from progressing past a certain stage of development? If it's real, it could be the single greatest roadblock to humanity's expansion across the cosmos. Imagine a scenario in which humanity's most advanced spacecraft, traveling at an unprecedented speed, finally reaches the supposed edge of the galaxy. Instruments aboard detect nothing unusual at first. But as the ship moves forward, signals become distorted. Time appears to slow. No matter how far the ship moves, it seems to make no progress. From the perspective of those on board, the universe itself may appear to stretch infinitely, preventing any forward movement. This would suggest the barrier is not a tangible wall but something deeper, a distortion of space-time itself, a horizon beyond which no information can be transmitted or received. If such a phenomenon exists, what could be causing it? One possibility is that it is a relic of the universe's earliest days, a leftover feature from the Big Bang that marked the limit of galactic expansion. Perhaps it is an event horizon, similar to that of a black hole, but on a galactic scale, something that separates different regions of space into disconnected zones. If this is the case, then the entire structure of the cosmos could be divided into isolated regions, each one forever cut off from the others. We might not just be alone in our galaxy. We could be completely trapped within it, unable to ever interact with other civilizations beyond this boundary. But what if the Great Galactic Barrier is an artificial construct? If it is something placed there by an unknown intelligence, then its implications are far more profound. An advanced civilization could have created it as a means of control, preventing species from expanding beyond a certain point. If so, then it would mean we are part of a design system, one where galactic expansion is regulated by forces we do not yet understand. This idea raises unsettling questions. Why would such a barrier be put in place? Was it meant to keep us contained, limiting our reach for reasons unknown? Or was it placed there to protect us from something beyond? If we assume an intelligence is responsible, then we must also consider the possibility that this intelligence is still out there, watching, waiting to see what we do when we finally approach the barrier. Some theorists have speculated that such a boundary could serve as a kind of test, a way to determine which civilizations are ready to progress beyond their home galaxy. The barrier might not be a blockade at all but a filter, allowing only those who reach a certain level of technological or philosophical maturity to pass through. If this is the case, then what we face may not be a barrier in the physical sense, but something that must be understood and transcended mentally. Perhaps civilizations that fail to recognize this are doomed to remain trapped, forever circling the edges of their galactic prison. Maybe this is why we see no evidence of advanced alien life, because most species never figure out how to cross the barrier. The universe could be teeming with civilizations that exist in isolation, each one confined to its own galactic bubble, forever unable to communicate with the others. But what if some civilizations have made it past the barrier? If an ancient intelligence did manage to break through, where did they go? Did they vanish into a higher state of existence, leaving behind only traces of their presence? Or do they now exist in a region of the universe that we cannot perceive, far beyond our current understanding? There is also a more disturbing possibility, that some civilizations have attempted to cross the barrier and failed. If the barrier is real and is meant to be a form of defense, then it may have consequences for those who try to bypass it. Perhaps those who attempt to breach it are destroyed, erased from existence by forces they could not comprehend. If this is true, then we must ask ourselves, are we truly prepared to take the risk of trying to cross? If we accept the possibility that the barrier is real, then we must also consider what it means for the future of humanity. Should we seek to cross it, risking the unknown? Or should we accept its presence, staying within the boundaries that have been set for us? The answer may define the fate of our species. And yet, despite the dangers, there is an undeniable allure to the idea of crossing the Great Galactic Barrier. If it exists, then it represents the final frontier, the last great mystery of the cosmos. Beyond it could lie answers to the deepest questions we have ever asked. What is the true nature of the universe? Are we alone? Is there a greater reality beyond what we can perceive? For now, the barrier remains a mystery. But one day, whether through exploration, intelligence, or sheer determination, humanity may finally reach the edge of the galaxy and stand at the threshold of the unknown. And when that day comes, we will face a choice: to turn back and remain in the universe we know, or to step forward into the great beyond, risking everything for the chance to discover what lies on the other side. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, it represents the ultimate boundary, not just in space, but in knowledge, perception, and perhaps even consciousness itself. The deeper we explore this idea, the more unsettling and thought-provoking it becomes. Could such a barrier be a fundamental property of the universe? Or is it something more deliberate, a construct designed to keep civilizations like ours confined within a cosmic cage? The implications of such a barrier go far beyond simple physical limitations. If it exists, then it suggests a structure to the universe that we have yet to comprehend. Perhaps our understanding of space-time is incomplete, and this barrier is a natural consequence of physics we have not yet discovered. It may be a transition point, a shift in the nature of reality itself. If so, what lies beyond may be entirely different from anything we can imagine. One possibility is that this barrier is tied to the fundamental nature of information itself. In physics, information is just as important as matter and energy. The way information is processed, stored, and transmitted in the universe could determine the limits of what we can perceive. Could it be that the barrier represents a limit beyond which no information can pass? If this is the case, then even if something exists beyond it, we would never be able to detect it, because no signals, no energy, and no matter could cross the threshold. It would be a true cosmic horizon, a region beyond which all knowledge is forever lost. But if this is true, it raises an even more perplexing question: why does such a boundary exist? The universe does not create arbitrary restrictions. If there is a barrier, then it must serve a purpose. Is it a side effect of some deeper law of physics, a relic from the early universe? Or is it something placed there by an intelligence far beyond our comprehension? If the latter is true, then we must consider the possibility that we are being watched. An advanced civilization capable of constructing such a barrier would possess knowledge and power far beyond anything we can imagine. What if they established this boundary as a means of control, to prevent civilizations from expanding beyond a certain point? Or perhaps it is meant to protect the integrity of the universe itself, ensuring that only those species that reach a certain level of understanding are permitted to move forward. The idea that the universe is divided into isolated regions is not new. Some interpretations of the Fermi paradox suggest that civilizations are deliberately kept separate, either by natural forces or by an unknown intelligence. If this is the case, then we may be one of countless civilizations, each trapped within its own galactic bubble, forever unable to interact with the others. But what if there is a way to cross? If the barrier exists, then it must have a mechanism by which it functions. And if there is a mechanism, then there may be a way to bypass it. Could advanced physics allow us to bend space-time in such a way that we slip through? Could consciousness itself be the key to overcoming the barrier? Some theories in quantum physics suggest that reality is shaped by observation. If the universe is fundamentally a construct of information and perception, then perhaps the barrier is not a physical thing but a limitation of our own understanding. In this view, the key to crossing it may not be in technology, but in expanding the way we perceive reality itself. This idea aligns with some of the more speculative theories of cosmic evolution. If the barrier is a test, then it is not about brute force or technological prowess, but about wisdom and enlightenment. Only those civilizations that transcend a certain way of thinking may be able to pass through. This would mean that our fate is not determined by how fast we travel or how powerful our technology becomes, but by how deeply we understand the nature of existence itself. Could it be that the civilizations that have crossed the barrier are no longer bound by the physical constraints of the universe as we know it? Perhaps they have moved beyond the need for physical bodies, existing as pure consciousness, spread across dimensions we cannot yet perceive. If so, then the barrier is not just a boundary in space, but a gateway to a new form of existence, one where time, space, and matter are no longer relevant in the ways we understand them. But what if the barrier is meant to keep something out, rather than keep us in? If there is a force at work maintaining this boundary, it may not be for our imprisonment, it may be for our protection. What if there is something beyond it that we are not meant to encounter? Some kind of cosmic horror, an entity or force so vast and incomprehensible that contact with it would be catastrophic. In some interpretations of the Fermi paradox, the reason we see no advanced civilizations is because those that venture too far are destroyed. Could it be that the barrier exists to prevent civilizations from waking something up? A force so ancient, so powerful, that it has been locked away beyond the edge of the galaxy? If this is the case, then the question is not whether we can cross the barrier, but whether we should. And yet, despite the risks, the human spirit is defined by its desire to explore the unknown. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, it will not stop us forever. Whether through science, technology, or sheer willpower, we will seek to understand it. We will send probes, study anomalies, develop theories, and push the limits of our knowledge. And one day, we may finally stand at the edge of the galaxy, looking into the abyss beyond. When that moment comes, we will have to make a choice. Do we take the leap into the unknown, risking everything for the chance to uncover the secrets of the cosmos? Or do we accept our place in the universe, choosing to remain within the boundaries that have been set for us? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: the universe is far stranger and more mysterious than we can possibly imagine. And whether we are alone or watched, trapped or protected, one truth remains: the cosmos will always call to us, daring us to reach beyond what we know, to seek out the answers hidden in the darkness, and to challenge the limits of our reality itself. If the Great Galactic Barrier is truly a boundary separating us from the deeper unknowns of the universe, then the next question is this: how do we even begin to approach it? Humanity, at its current stage, is bound by the limits of technology, physics, and even biological constraints. Our spacecraft, though impressive by our standards, move at a pace that makes interstellar travel seem almost impossible. But if the barrier is real, and if it is something that can be breached, then the answer to crossing it may lie in realms of science that we have only begun to touch. One of the most promising areas of research that could offer insight into breaking through such a boundary is quantum mechanics. Quantum entanglement suggests that information can travel instantaneously between 2 points, no matter how far apart they are. If the universe has a fundamental barrier preventing physical travel, could there be a way to transmit information beyond it? If so, what would that mean for our understanding of the cosmos? Could there be civilizations on the other side of the barrier trying to reach us, but unable to do so through conventional means? Another area of interest is wormholes, hypothetical tunnels in spacetime that could, in theory, allow for instantaneous travel between distant points in the universe. If the barrier exists as a kind of dimensional boundary, then perhaps wormholes are the key to bypassing it. But even if such structures exist, we face another dilemma: are they natural, or are they artificial? If they are natural, then the laws of physics may provide us with a way through. But if they are artificial, then we must consider the possibility that they were constructed either to keep something out, or to keep something in. This brings us to another chilling thought: what if the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a physical boundary, but a containment field? What if it serves to isolate our region of the galaxy for reasons we cannot yet comprehend? This idea leads to speculation that we may not be the first civilization to approach the barrier. Others may have reached this boundary long before us and may have left behind remnants, signals, or even warnings about what lies beyond. The lack of detected extraterrestrial signals has long puzzled scientists, forming the basis of the Fermi paradox. Some believe that intelligent civilizations either destroy themselves before reaching a certain level of advancement, or are destroyed by external forces. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it could provide an answer to the paradox. It may be preventing civilizations from making contact with each other. But why? Is it for safety, preservation, or something more ominous? A more speculative possibility is that the barrier is not physical at all, but rather an illusion, a form of perceptual limitation imposed upon us either by nature or by an external intelligence. Many researchers have theorized that consciousness itself plays a role in shaping reality. If that is the case, then perhaps the barrier exists only because we have not yet developed the awareness necessary to see beyond it. Could it be that once we reach a certain level of understanding, the boundary will cease to exist? This idea aligns with theories that suggest our perception of the universe is inherently limited by our senses and cognitive structures. Just as an insect cannot comprehend the concept of space travel, perhaps we are similarly limited in ways we do not yet understand. If the barrier is a test, then it may not be something to physically overcome but something that must be understood on a deeper level, one that requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive the universe. There is also the unsettling possibility that the barrier is alive in some sense. What if it is not a static boundary, but an entity or intelligence that actively enforces its own existence? This could align with ideas in astrobiology that suggest the universe itself may have mechanisms for regulating the spread of life. If this is the case, then breaching the barrier may not be a simple matter of technology, but a challenge that requires us to prove ourselves in some unknown way. Alternatively, the barrier could be something far older than we can imagine, a remnant from a time before our galaxy even formed. If the universe was once vastly different than it is now, then the barrier may be the last remaining structure from a previous cosmic era. Perhaps it once had a purpose that has long since been forgotten, leaving only its effects behind. If so, then our attempts to cross it may awaken forces or consequences that have been dormant for billions of years. There is also the terrifying possibility that the barrier is a defense system designed to protect us from an external threat. If this is true, then the question becomes, what is on the other side? If the universe is filled with dangers beyond our comprehension, then the barrier may be the only thing standing between us and extinction. If this is the case, then breaking through it could be the worst mistake humanity ever makes. And yet, despite all these possibilities, we are left with nothing but questions. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then its existence suggests that the universe is structured in ways far more complex than we ever imagined. It forces us to consider the possibility that our understanding of reality is incomplete, that there are forces at work beyond our comprehension, and that our place in the cosmos is far from secure. One day, we may finally develop the technology, knowledge, or awareness necessary to approach the barrier directly. When that happens, we will face the ultimate test. Will we find that it is merely an illusion, a self-imposed limit that we can overcome with a shift in understanding? Will we discover that it is a gateway, leading to unimaginable wonders or horrors? Or will we find that it is impenetrable, a final message from the universe itself that some places are simply not meant to be explored? Until that day comes, all we can do is speculate, theorize, and continue our quest for knowledge. The Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most tantalizing and unsettling mysteries of the cosmos, one that challenges not just our understanding of space, but our very perception of reality itself. If the Great Galactic Barrier is indeed real, then its implications stretch far beyond our current understanding of space. It challenges not only astrophysics, but also the very nature of intelligence, perception, and the limits of human ambition. The mystery surrounding this hypothetical boundary forces us to confront profound questions. Are we truly alone, or are we quarantined? Is the universe open for exploration, or is it compartmentalized in ways we cannot yet perceive? One of the most pressing questions is whether the barrier, if it exists, is something that was deliberately placed or if it emerged naturally. If it is artificial, then we must ask who or what constructed it. If it is natural, then we must determine whether it is a fundamental feature of the cosmos or a transient phenomenon that has formed over time. Some scientists have speculated that the structure of the universe itself may contain inherent limitations on movement, information transfer, or even consciousness. These limits could be dictated by unknown aspects of physics, hidden dimensions, or constraints imposed by the very fabric of space-time. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then it may be a sign that we are missing a crucial aspect of how the universe operates. A particularly unsettling theory suggests that the barrier is a kind of evolutionary filter, an unavoidable hurdle that only the most advanced civilizations can pass. This ties into the concept of the Great Filter, a hypothesis that attempts to explain why we have not yet encountered extraterrestrial life. According to this idea, most intelligent civilizations may be doomed to self-destruction before they reach a certain stage of development. If the Great Galactic Barrier is part of this process, then it may represent the ultimate test, a point beyond which only the most capable and advanced species can survive. If this is true, then the nature of the barrier may not be purely physical. Instead, it may function as an intelligence filter, a challenge that requires civilizations to evolve past certain limitations in order to perceive and understand what lies beyond. Could it be that humanity, in its current form, is not yet capable of comprehending the full nature of the cosmos? If so, then the barrier may exist not to keep us out, but to ensure that we are truly ready before we take our next step into the unknown. Another possibility is that the barrier is an energy threshold, an invisible wall that separates different regions of space based on their fundamental properties. The idea of cosmic domains suggests that different sections of the universe could operate under slightly different physical laws. If this is true, then the barrier may mark the edge of a region where the rules of physics as we know them begin to break down. Crossing it may require new forms of propulsion, new ways of perceiving time, or even a complete restructuring of our understanding of reality. It is also possible that the Great Galactic Barrier is tied to dark energy, the mysterious force responsible for the accelerated expansion of the universe. Some cosmologists have proposed that dark energy may not be uniform but instead behave differently in separate regions of space. If so, then the barrier may represent a boundary between zones where dark energy operates under different conditions. This could explain why we have not been able to detect extraterrestrial signals. If civilizations on the other side exist in a fundamentally different energy state, then their technology may be incompatible with ours. If the barrier is real, then our ability to detect it may be limited by our own observational methods. Much of what we know about the universe comes from analyzing electromagnetic radiation, visible light, radio waves, infrared signals, and so on. But if the barrier is composed of something that does not interact with electromagnetic radiation in the usual way, then it may be effectively invisible to us. We may only be able to infer its existence through indirect means, such as unexplained gravitational effects or anomalies in cosmic background radiation. This raises another intriguing question. Have we already encountered signs of the barrier without realizing it? Some astronomers have pointed out that there are unexplained patterns in the distribution of galaxies, with certain regions appearing oddly empty or structured in ways that do not conform to our current models. Could these anomalies be hints that we are already brushing up against a boundary we do not yet understand? If the barrier is something that prevents travel beyond a certain point, then our best chance at studying it may come from sending robotic probes toward the suspected regions. However, if it is a true boundary, then these probes may fail to return data, or worse, they may simply vanish without explanation. If such an event were to occur, it would raise even more unsettling questions. Does the barrier destroy anything that attempts to pass through it? Does it displace objects into an unknown dimension? Or does it act as a one-way gate, allowing travel in one direction but preventing any return? This last possibility aligns with certain interpretations of the cosmic horizon, the limit beyond which light from distant regions has not yet had time to reach us due to the expansion of the universe. If the Great Galactic Barrier operates on similar principles, then it may not be a physical wall but rather a transition zone beyond which the nature of space itself changes in ways we cannot yet perceive. There is also the chilling idea that the barrier is not static, that it moves, expands, or even contracts over time. If so, then the position of the boundary may not be fixed, and what we perceive as normal space may eventually be overtaken by whatever lies beyond it. If this is true, then the barrier may not just be something we approach, it may be something that eventually approaches us. But perhaps the most mind-bending idea of all is that the barrier is not external, but internal. What if the limitation is not in space itself, but in us? Our minds, our biology, our perception, all of these factors shape how we experience reality. If we are fundamentally incapable of understanding what lies beyond a certain point, then the barrier may not be a structure in space but a construct of our own cognition. Some philosophers and physicists have suggested that the universe may be a simulation or a construct of information. If that is the case, then the Great Galactic Barrier may represent the limits of the simulation, the point beyond which the system cannot render further data. If so, then attempting to cross the barrier may be equivalent to trying to look beyond the boundaries of a video game world. What happens when you reach the edge? Does the universe simply stop? These possibilities may seem far-fetched, but they highlight the deeper issue at the heart of the mystery. We do not yet fully understand the nature of reality itself. Whether the barrier is physical, energetic, cognitive, or something else entirely, it forces us to confront the fact that our knowledge is still limited. For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most compelling and enigmatic possibilities in astrophysics. If it exists, then it may be the key to understanding why the universe is structured the way it is. It may reveal answers to the deepest mysteries of existence, or it may pose new questions that are even more unsettling. Until we develop the means to investigate it directly, all we can do is speculate. But one thing is certain: if the barrier is real, then its existence changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos. The universe may not be an open frontier. It may be a vast, intricate system with rules and boundaries we are only beginning to uncover. And the greatest mystery of all is whether we will ever find a way to cross it. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it may be the ultimate test of humanity's scientific and philosophical understanding. It could be a boundary that separates us from a deeper truth about the universe, one that we have yet to comprehend. But before we can determine how to cross it, we must first ask, what would it mean to cross such a boundary? Would we still be the same on the other side? Or would passing through the barrier fundamentally change our nature, our perception, or even our very existence? One of the most intriguing possibilities is that the barrier is not just a physical obstruction, but a shift in reality itself. If it exists as a kind of cosmic threshold, then crossing it could mean entering a domain where time, space, and even consciousness function differently. We might encounter physical laws that are incompatible with our own, or we might experience an expansion of awareness that changes how we perceive the universe. If our minds are wired for three-dimensional space and linear time, then a transition beyond the barrier could feel like waking up from a dream, only to realize that everything we once knew was just a fraction of a larger reality. But what if the barrier is not something that can be crossed at all? What if it exists to enforce separation between different regions of space, an enforced division that keeps civilizations from interacting with one another? Some theorists speculate that the universe could be arranged into separate zones, each isolated to prevent interference. If this is true, then we may be locked into a specific cosmic sector, unable to perceive or communicate with whatever lies beyond. This concept aligns with a more unsettling possibility, that we are quarantined. If advanced civilizations exist on the other side of the barrier, then they may have deliberately constructed it to prevent us, or any developing species, from expanding too quickly. Such a structure could be a form of containment, ensuring that less advanced civilizations do not disrupt a more complex cosmic order. If so, then any attempt to break through might be met with resistance, or even consequences beyond our understanding. This idea ties into the Fermi paradox, the question of why we have not yet encountered intelligent extraterrestrial life despite the vast number of habitable planets in the universe. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it could be the answer to this mystery. It might be the reason why no signals reach us, why no alien spacecraft have arrived, and why the universe appears so eerily silent. If civilizations are indeed out there, they may be blocked from reaching us, or we may be blocked from reaching them. If the barrier is artificial, then its purpose becomes the key question. Was it placed to keep something out, or to keep something in? Some speculate that it could serve as a cosmic safeguard, preventing dangerous or highly destructive forces from spreading. If ancient civilizations once flourished before us, they may have encountered something so dangerous, perhaps an uncontrollable force of nature, a hyper-advanced hostile intelligence, or an existential threat beyond comprehension, that they constructed the barrier as a last-ditch effort to contain it. But what if the danger is us? What if the reason we have been isolated is that human expansion is seen as a threat? If an advanced species had the ability to shape the structure of the cosmos, they might have detected early signs that civilizations like ours tend toward destructive behavior. From their perspective, placing a boundary around developing species might be the only way to preserve the delicate balance of the universe. Yet, if we assume that the barrier was placed by an intelligence, then another question emerges. How did they get beyond it? If they are capable of constructing such a vast containment system, then they must have found a way to navigate through or around it. This suggests that the barrier is not absolute. It may be a test, a puzzle, or a gate that only those who achieve a certain level of understanding can pass. This aligns with some interpretations of the Great Filter hypothesis, which suggests that civilizations may reach a critical juncture in their development where they either transcend their limitations or self-destruct. If the barrier represents this threshold, then passing through it could signify the ultimate achievement of a species, a sign that they have reached a level of wisdom, cooperation, or technological mastery necessary to join a greater cosmic community. But what if the barrier is something entirely different, something not designed by an intelligence at all? If it is a natural phenomenon, then it may represent a limit in the fabric of reality itself. One possibility is that space is structured in a way that certain regions are fundamentally unreachable, either due to distortions in space-time, the influence of dark energy, or some deeper property of the universe that we do not yet understand. There is a concept in physics known as the cosmic event horizon, which marks the limit of the observable universe. Due to the accelerating expansion of space, there are regions so far away that their light will never reach us. If the Great Galactic Barrier is related to this effect, then it may represent an even more profound limit, one that prevents matter, energy, or even information from crossing between different regions of existence. Some physicists have theorized that the universe could be part of a larger multiverse, with each bubble universe separated by invisible boundaries. If this is the case, then the Great Galactic Barrier might not be a wall in the traditional sense, but a division between two different realities. If we could find a way to cross it, we might not just be moving to another part of the galaxy. We might be stepping into an entirely different universe with different fundamental laws. But if that is the case, then the true question is whether we are meant to cross it at all. If the barrier represents the edge of our reality, then pushing beyond it could have unpredictable consequences. Could we survive in a space where physics operates differently? Would we remain human, or would we become something else entirely? Would crossing the barrier grant us access to a new level of existence, or would it mean the end of everything we know? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then its discovery would be the most significant revelation in human history. It would change everything about our understanding of space, time, and our place in the cosmos. It would force us to rethink not only how we explore the universe, but why we explore it. Are we meant to expand indefinitely, or is there a deeper reason why we have been contained? For now, we do not have the answers. The universe remains a vast and mysterious place, full of wonders and unknowns. But one thing is certain: if the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then it is not just an obstacle, it is a message. A challenge. A sign that there is more to reality than we have ever imagined. And the greatest question of all is whether we will ever be ready to cross it. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then the implications extend far beyond just our own existence. It forces us to question the very nature of the universe itself. Are we truly living in an open cosmos, where limitless expansion is possible? Or are we inside something more structured, an enclosure, a simulation, or even a grand experiment? One possibility that has been raised is that the barrier is a kind of cosmic filter, a natural mechanism that determines which civilizations survive and which do not. This concept is closely related to the Great Filter hypothesis, which suggests that at some point in the development of intelligent life, there is a nearly insurmountable obstacle that prevents most species from advancing beyond a certain stage. If the barrier represents this threshold, then crossing it might not just be a matter of technology. It might require a fundamental transformation in the way a civilization operates. If the barrier is artificial, then its purpose is one of the greatest mysteries we could ever hope to solve. Could it be a warning system, meant to deter civilizations from expanding too far? A safeguard to protect the integrity of the universe? Or could it be something even stranger, an initiation test set by an advanced intelligence, only allowing those who reach a certain level of wisdom and understanding to pass through? The idea that we are part of a greater cosmic hierarchy is not new. Some theories propose that civilizations in the universe follow a structured path of development, much like species evolving on Earth. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, it may function as a checkpoint that separates lower-level civilizations from those that have achieved interstellar, or even interdimensional, travel. This could mean that beyond the barrier lies a hidden galactic community, one that only those who have proven themselves capable of responsible expansion are allowed to join. This theory aligns with the idea of a zoo hypothesis, which suggests that advanced civilizations may be deliberately avoiding contact with us, allowing us to develop independently. The barrier could be the ultimate expression of this concept, an invisible line drawn across the cosmos, ensuring that we remain unaware of what lies beyond until we are truly ready. But what if the reason we have not yet discovered the barrier is because we are not even close to reaching it? The universe is vast, and our technological capabilities are still in their infancy. If the barrier exists at the edge of the Milky Way, or even farther beyond, then it may take us thousands, perhaps even millions, of years to reach it. By that point, humanity may no longer resemble what we are today. However, some theorists argue that we may have already encountered traces of the barrier without realizing it. Could unexplained cosmic phenomena, such as the eerie silence of space, the strange behaviors of certain celestial objects, or the apparent lack of evidence for extraterrestrial civilizations, be indirect signs that the barrier is real? If so, then understanding these anomalies could be the key to discovering its nature. Another question to consider is whether the barrier is static or dynamic. If it is a fixed boundary, then it may remain in place indefinitely, preventing access to whatever lies beyond. But if it is a shifting phenomenon, one that moves or changes over time, then it could mean that civilizations have the ability to alter it, perhaps by reaching a certain level of technological sophistication or demonstrating a particular type of behavior. There is also the question of what happens if we try to break through the barrier. If it is a natural phenomenon, then we may be able to bypass it with enough scientific advancement. But if it is artificial, then any attempt to force our way through could trigger a response. Would we be met with resistance? Would an unknown force attempt to stop us? Or would we simply find that our own reality begins to break down the closer we get? Some have speculated that the barrier might be connected to the fundamental structure of the universe itself. If space-time is not as continuous as it appears, then the barrier could represent a point where the fabric of reality begins to unravel. In such a case, attempting to cross it could lead to unexpected consequences, such as being trapped in a time loop, encountering parallel versions of our own universe, or even ceasing to exist altogether. The more we consider the possibilities, the more the mystery deepens. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it could be the single greatest discovery in human history. It would redefine our understanding of the cosmos, challenge our assumptions about existence, and force us to confront the possibility that we are not as free to explore as we once believed. And yet, the most profound question remains: if the barrier is real, then what, if anything, exists beyond it? Is it a gateway to a higher level of existence, or is it a final limit that we are never meant to cross? The answer to this question may determine the fate of our species, shaping the ultimate destiny of humanity in ways we can scarcely imagine. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then its implications stretch far beyond our immediate understanding of space exploration. It raises fundamental questions about the very nature of our universe and our place within it. If such a cosmic threshold exists, then why was it put there? Who or what designed it? And most importantly, what lies beyond it? One of the most unsettling possibilities is that the barrier is not just an obstruction but a warning. Some theorists suggest that beyond the barrier may exist something so dangerous, so catastrophic, that advanced civilizations have chosen to seal themselves away from it. If this is true, then the barrier is not just a wall, it is a shield, one that has been deliberately put in place to prevent whatever is on the other side from breaking through. Could it be that civilizations that have attempted to pass through the barrier have never returned? If we assume that other intelligent life has existed in the universe for billions of years before us, then it stands to reason that at least some of them have attempted to cross the threshold. And yet, we hear nothing. No signals, no signs of civilizations beyond our own. The silence of the cosmos has often been explained as the Fermi paradox. But what if the answer is simpler? What if they all tried and failed? If the barrier serves as a safeguard, then what could it be protecting us from? Some have speculated that the true danger of the universe is not just physical threats like gamma ray bursts or rogue planets, but something more abstract, something beyond our comprehension. Perhaps the barrier exists to keep civilizations from interacting with realities or entities that are best left undisturbed. One of the most extreme possibilities is that beyond the barrier lies something akin to cosmic horror, a place where the very laws of physics break down, or where ancient and unknowable entities exist in a state of incomprehensible being. In this case, the barrier may not be an artificial construct at all, but a fundamental boundary in the nature of the universe, one that separates the safe regions of reality from the chaotic unknown. If this is the case, then attempting to cross the barrier could result in consequences we cannot even begin to anticipate. Would a spacecraft approaching the barrier simply vanish, erased from existence, as if it had never been? Would it become trapped in a state of temporal stasis, forever frozen at the edge of reality? Or would it continue forward, only to find itself in a universe that is completely alien, where the very fabric of space-time behaves in ways beyond our current understanding? There is also the possibility that the barrier is not a warning, but a test. If an advanced civilization were to reach this point, it might be faced with a choice: turn back and remain confined within the limits of known space, or push forward and accept the unknown. If the barrier is artificial, then those who created it may have designed it as a challenge, one meant to filter out those who are not yet ready to progress. But what does ready mean in this context? Is it a matter of technology, where only those who possess a certain level of scientific advancement can pass through? Or is it something deeper, an intellectual threshold that requires a civilization to evolve beyond its current state? If this is the case, then our journey to the barrier is not just about physical exploration, but about the very nature of what it means to be intelligent. Another possibility is that the barrier is dynamic, shifting and changing based on the observer. If it is tied to the nature of consciousness itself, then it may not be a physical object at all, but an illusion, a limit that only exists because we perceive it to be there. In this case, the moment we truly understand the nature of the universe, the barrier might disappear, revealing what lies beyond. If this theory holds any truth, then it suggests that the greatest limitation on space travel is not technology, but perception. We may be trapped not by the boundaries of the cosmos, but by the boundaries of our own understanding. If we can change the way we think, if we can expand our consciousness beyond its current limitations, then perhaps the barrier will cease to exist. This idea is deeply unsettling because it suggests that the universe is not an objective reality, but something far more malleable. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, and if it is tied to the nature of consciousness, then it may be one of the final challenges any civilization must overcome before truly becoming interstellar. It is not just a test of knowledge, but a test of awareness, one that forces a species to question everything it believes about the nature of existence. Of course, all of this remains speculation. The barrier has not been definitively observed, and we do not yet know if it truly exists. But if it does, then the implications are staggering. It would mean that the universe is not just an open expanse to be explored at will, but a structured environment with defined limits that we may or may not be able to surpass. If the barrier is real, then the question is not just whether we can cross it, but whether we should. If something dangerous lies beyond, then perhaps we are safer remaining within the confines of our current reality. But if the barrier is a test, if it is something we are meant to overcome, then our ultimate destiny may depend on our willingness to confront the unknown. And so, we find ourselves at a crossroads. The cosmos stretches out before us, infinite and mysterious, and somewhere out there, perhaps far beyond our reach, lies a boundary that may hold the answers to everything. Will we ever find it? Will we ever know what lies beyond? Or will we remain forever on the edge, staring into the unknown, wondering what waits for us on the other side? If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then the ultimate question is whether humanity, or any civilization, has the capability to cross it. The possibility that such a cosmic threshold is real forces us to consider the very limits of science, technology, and even consciousness itself. If an advanced species reached this point and could not pass through, then what would that mean for us? Would it be a sign that intelligence has a built-in limit, that no matter how far a civilization progresses, there are forces in the universe that cannot be overcome? This idea is deeply troubling, as it suggests that there is an upper ceiling to technological advancement. We often assume that progress is limitless, that given enough time, we will develop the means to explore every corner of the cosmos. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if, instead, the universe has been designed in such a way that intelligent life will always reach a certain point, only to find itself trapped? If this is true, then the Great Galactic Barrier may not be a test of strength, but a demonstration of futility. Civilizations may rise, flourish, expand across their galaxies, and yet, when they reach this final boundary, they may find themselves unable to go any further. This could explain why we see no signs of extraterrestrial life, because all species that reach this level are stopped in their tracks, prevented from progressing any further. But there is another possibility, one that is just as unsettling. If the barrier is real and it is not an impassable limit, then what happens when a civilization finally crosses it? What do they find? And why have we never heard from them again? One theory suggests that civilizations that successfully breach the barrier undergo a fundamental transformation, one so profound that they no longer exist in the same form as before. They may ascend to a higher plane of existence, one where they no longer need physical bodies or even a home galaxy. If this is true, then our inability to detect extraterrestrial life may not be because they have been destroyed or silenced, but because they have moved beyond our reality altogether. This aligns with some interpretations of the Catastrophic scale, which measures civilizations based on their ability to harness energy. A Type 1 civilization can harness the energy of its own planet, a Type 2 civilization can control the energy of its star, and a Type 3 civilization can utilize the energy of an entire galaxy. But what comes after that? Some theorists suggest that a Type 4 or Type 5 civilization would have control over the fundamental fabric of the universe itself, able to manipulate space, time, and even consciousness at will. If this is true, then perhaps the Great Galactic Barrier is the threshold that separates lower civilizations from higher ones. It may be that once a species reaches this level, it can no longer be perceived by those who remain behind. They may exist in dimensions beyond our understanding, in realms where the very nature of reality is different from anything we can imagine. But what if the barrier is not meant to be crossed at all? Some theories propose that it is there for our own protection, keeping us contained within a safe portion of the universe. If that is the case, then we must ask, what are we being protected from? One chilling possibility is that beyond the barrier lies a force or entity so powerful that it threatens all intelligent life. This could be a form of cosmic predator, an ancient intelligence that exists on a scale beyond our comprehension. If civilizations that cross the barrier disappear, it may not be because they have ascended, it may be because they have been consumed. This would mean that the universe operates under a kind of natural selection, where only those species that remain within the barrier can survive. Those that grow too ambitious, that reach too far, are inevitably eliminated by whatever waits beyond. If this is the case, then the silence of the cosmos is not a mystery, but a warning, a sign that the universe is far more dangerous than we have ever imagined. Of course, this raises the question of who, or what, created the barrier in the first place. If it is an artificial construct, then it must have been put there by a civilization so advanced that it possessed the ability to manipulate entire galaxies. This would imply that at some point in the distant past, a species, or multiple species, faced a crisis so severe that they had no choice but to seal off a portion of the universe, creating a boundary that could never be crossed. If such a civilization existed, then what happened to them? Did they succeed in containing the threat, or did they eventually fall to it as well? And if they did perish, then what does that mean for us? It is possible that the Great Galactic Barrier is not a permanent structure, but one that changes over time. Perhaps it is a field of energy that ebbs and flows, shifting in response to the civilizations that approach it. If this is the case, then it may be possible for humanity to one day find a way through, not by brute force, but by understanding the true nature of the universe. This idea suggests that the barrier is not an obstacle, but a puzzle, one that can only be solved by those who have reached a certain level of enlightenment. If we ever hope to pass through, then we may need to rethink everything we know about reality. This brings us to one of the most intriguing possibilities of all. What if the Great Galactic Barrier is not a boundary in space, but a boundary in time? Some physicists have proposed that the structure of the universe may include temporal barriers, points where time itself behaves differently, preventing certain events from occurring. If this is true, then the reason we have never encountered extraterrestrial civilizations beyond the barrier may not be because they do not exist, but because we are not yet in the right era to interact with them. In this scenario, the barrier is not a physical wall but a point in history that must be reached before further progress is possible. It may be that civilizations that reach this threshold are not destroyed or ascended, but simply waiting for the moment when the universe itself shifts in such a way that the barrier disappears, allowing them to move forward. If this is true, then our destiny is not to break through the barrier, but to evolve until we reach the point where it no longer exists. This could mean that the most important developments in human history are still ahead of us, and that our greatest challenge is not just technological advancement, but the expansion of our understanding. But if that is the case, then how will we know when the time has come? Will we receive a sign? Will the barrier simply vanish one day, revealing what lies beyond? Or will we only know once we have taken the final step, one that may forever change the course of human civilization? The Great Galactic Barrier, if it exists, may be the final mystery of the cosmos. It is the point at which our understanding of reality meets the unknown, where all of our theories and discoveries come to an end. Beyond it lies something we cannot yet comprehend, something that may hold the answers to the greatest questions of existence. And so we continue our search, gazing out into the void, wondering if we will ever reach the edge of the known universe. Will we find the barrier? Will we attempt to cross it? And if we do, will we finally learn the truth, or will we disappear, like all those who may have come before us? If the Great Galactic Barrier exists as a cosmic divide, then we are left with an even greater mystery. Is it possible to prepare for what lies beyond it? If civilizations that reach this threshold are either transformed, destroyed, or forced into stagnation, then the question of how to proceed becomes one of existential importance. The way forward may not be one of brute technological force, but one of intelligence, adaptability, and perhaps even an evolution of consciousness itself. One of the most unsettling possibilities is that the barrier is not simply a boundary but a test. If the universe is governed by some form of intelligence, whether it be a higher civilization, a natural universal law, or even an entity beyond our understanding, then the barrier may serve as a filter, ensuring that only the most advanced civilizations, in every sense, can proceed. This is an idea that has echoes in the Fermi paradox, which asks why, in a universe so vast, we have yet to encounter intelligent life. The Great Filter hypothesis suggests that there is a stage in a civilization's development that most fail to surpass, either through self-destruction or an insurmountable cosmic obstacle. The Great Galactic Barrier could be an extension of this idea, acting as a universal checkpoint. Perhaps civilizations that attempt to cross it too soon are met with disaster, not because they are being deliberately destroyed, but because they are not yet ready. If the barrier functions as a form of cosmic Darwinism, then only those who have evolved beyond their primal instincts, their territorial conflicts, and their self-destructive tendencies would be capable of passing through unscathed. If this is true, then the biggest challenge humanity faces is not simply technological advancement, but the ability to survive long enough to reach the barrier in the first place. We must prove ourselves worthy, not just as explorers, but as a civilization that understands the fundamental principles of the universe. And if we are not ready, then the barrier will serve its purpose, ensuring that we remain within our cosmic limits until we either evolve or vanish. But what if some civilizations have already made it through? What if beyond the barrier lies an entirely different plane of existence, one populated by beings so advanced that they no longer interact with the physical universe in ways we can comprehend? If the barrier separates the mundane from the transcendent, then those who have crossed it may no longer be bound by the same laws of physics that govern our reality. They may have unlocked the ability to manipulate time, space, and energy in ways we cannot yet imagine. This could explain why the universe appears so empty. If civilizations that cross the barrier ascend to a different state of being, then they would have no reason to send signals back to the civilizations left behind. We may be alone in the observable universe not because we are the only intelligent species, but because those who came before us have already moved on to something greater. If this is true, then our search for extraterrestrial life may be misguided. Instead of looking for radio signals or Dyson spheres, we may need to look for evidence of something far stranger, anomalies in the fabric of space-time, energy fluctuations that defy explanation, or even subtle hints that reality itself is being altered in ways we do not yet understand. These could be the fingerprints of civilizations that have passed through the barrier, leaving behind only traces of their former existence. Of course, there is another, more terrifying possibility, that the barrier is not a gateway to enlightenment, but a warning. What if the reason no one has come back from beyond the barrier is not because they have ascended, but because they have encountered something that prevents them from returning? If there is a force beyond the barrier that consumes, assimilates, or eradicates civilizations that cross it, then it may be the final answer to the Fermi paradox. This could mean that the universe is not as welcoming as we would like to believe. Instead of being a vast frontier waiting to be explored, it may be a labyrinth filled with hidden dangers, some of which are beyond our ability to comprehend. If civilizations that cross the barrier are met with destruction, then our current isolation may not be a coincidence, but a survival mechanism. We may be kept within this cosmic boundary for our own protection, shielded from whatever horrors lurk beyond. But if that is the case, then what would happen if we attempted to breach the barrier? Would we trigger a chain of events that puts us in direct contact with forces we are not prepared to face? Or would we simply vanish, like those who may have come before us, never to be heard from again? If the barrier is a safeguard, then it may not be permanent. It could be that civilizations are only meant to stay within it until they reach a certain stage of development. Once they achieve the necessary level of knowledge, stability, and technological sophistication, the barrier may naturally dissolve, revealing the next phase of cosmic existence. This raises an even deeper question: what if the barrier is not something we must break through, but something we must unlock? If it is a test, then the key to passing it may not be in our ability to build better spaceships, but in our ability to comprehend the fundamental nature of reality itself. If the universe is structured in such a way that higher levels of existence are hidden behind these barriers, then the real challenge is not simply traveling beyond them, but understanding why they exist in the first place. Perhaps we are being given time to evolve, time to learn, time to prepare for what comes next. And if we try to rush the process, we may suffer the same fate as those who came before us. But if we are patient, if we focus on understanding rather than conquering, then we may eventually reach a point where the barrier is no longer an obstacle, but an invitation. Instead of being met with resistance, we may find that it simply fades away, revealing a universe far greater than anything we could have ever imagined. So we must ask ourselves, are we ready? Are we, as a species, capable of passing the test that the universe has set before us? Or will we, like so many before us, reach the threshold, only to find ourselves unable to take the final step? The Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of the cosmos. Whether it is real or metaphorical, physical or conceptual, it challenges us to rethink everything we believe about our place in the universe. If it exists, then it is the ultimate question, the final boundary between what we know and what lies beyond. And so we wait, staring into the vast emptiness of space, wondering if we will ever be the ones to find the edge of the known universe. Will we discover the barrier? Will we attempt to cross it? And if we do, will we finally learn the truth, or will we disappear, just like those who may have come before us? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it presents one of the most profound existential dilemmas humanity has ever faced. Should we attempt to cross it, knowing that civilizations before us may have failed? Should we continue advancing recklessly into the unknown, Or should we take a step back and reassess our trajectory before it is too late? The implications of this barrier go beyond mere scientific curiosity. They reach into the realms of philosophy, ethics, and even the fundamental nature of existence itself. One of the most important questions is whether the barrier is truly a physical structure, an energy field, or something more abstract. If it is an actual cosmic phenomenon, then our best bet for detecting it would be to study anomalies in the movement of galaxies, unexplained gravitational forces, or disruptions in cosmic radiation patterns. If the barrier is a form of energy, it might manifest as a sudden drop in detectable signals, as though the universe itself simply stops beyond a certain distance. Some researchers speculate that the cosmic microwave background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, could hold clues about the nature of this supposed boundary. Could there be an unexpected distortion at the edge of the observable universe, hinting at a hidden structure we cannot yet perceive? But what if the Great Galactic Barrier is not a tangible force, but rather an informational divide? What if the barrier exists not in space, but in our very ability to comprehend the universe beyond a certain scale? This would mean that even if we sent probes beyond our galaxy, or managed to receive signals from an advanced civilization beyond the barrier, our minds, or even our very reality, would be unable to process the information. It would be like a two-dimensional being trying to understand a three-dimensional world. This concept aligns with some interpretations of the simulation hypothesis, which suggests that the universe could be a construct with built-in limitations preventing us from accessing certain higher-dimensional truths. If this is the case, then the key to crossing the barrier may not be in building faster spaceships, but in evolving our very way of thinking. Perhaps there are cognitive thresholds that civilizations must surpass before they can interact with the true nature of the cosmos. This might explain why no signs of extraterrestrial intelligence have been found. If advanced civilizations reach a stage where they transcend the limitations of ordinary existence, they may no longer communicate in ways we can understand. They may not even reside in the same physical dimension anymore. This idea brings us to another unsettling possibility. What if civilizations that attempt to breach the barrier undergo a forced transformation? Some theories propose that the barrier could be a kind of cosmic checkpoint, one that fundamentally alters any species that comes into contact with it. Imagine a scenario where, upon reaching the barrier, a civilization is suddenly confronted with a reality so alien and incomprehensible that they either evolve to match it or cease to exist entirely. This would mean that no civilization ever disappears, in the traditional sense. Rather, they are absorbed into a higher form of existence, one that is beyond our ability to recognize. If this is true, then the moment we discover the barrier will be the most pivotal event in human history. It will not be just another scientific breakthrough. It will be a moment of reckoning, a transformation that could redefine the very nature of what it means to be human. Would we be ready for such a change? Or would we resist it, clinging to our current understanding of reality even as the universe forces us to evolve? Another perspective to consider is the possibility that the Great Galactic Barrier is a form of quarantine. Some scientists and thinkers have suggested that the reason we do not see evidence of advanced extraterrestrial civilizations is because the universe itself is designed to keep certain species isolated. Perhaps the barrier is a safeguard, preventing aggressive or primitive civilizations from expanding beyond a certain point until they have demonstrated a level of maturity and responsibility. This idea aligns with the concept of the zoo hypothesis, which suggests that Earth and similar planets may be deliberately kept in a controlled environment, watched over by more advanced civilizations or even by the universe itself. If this is the case, then the moment we approach the barrier, we may not find an impassable force, but rather, we may receive a message, a signal indicating that we have been noticed. This could be the moment we make first contact, not with another planet-bound species, but with an intelligence so advanced that it has been silently observing us for millennia. But what if the barrier is something far more dangerous? What if it is not a checkpoint, a quarantine, or a test, but a trap? If the universe is home to entities beyond our comprehension, then perhaps the barrier exists to keep something out rather than to keep us in. Some cosmologists have speculated that dark matter and dark energy, forces that make up most of the universe but remain largely mysterious, could be linked to an unseen cosmic struggle. If the barrier is a defensive structure, it could mean that beyond it lies a region of space where physical laws break down, where time does not function as we understand it, or where an unknown force has consumed everything that crosses its threshold. This terrifying idea suggests that civilizations that attempt to breach the barrier are not stopped by it. They simply vanish because they have wandered into a region of space that is fundamentally incompatible with life as we know it. Imagine stepping into an environment where the very constants of physics fluctuate unpredictably, where gravity shifts without warning, and where the nature of consciousness itself is altered in ways we cannot predict. If the barrier exists to prevent us from entering such a realm, then it may be the only thing keeping us safe. But if that is true, then we must ask, what happens when we finally reach the point where we can no longer ignore the barrier? Will we be able to resist the urge to push forward, or will we, like so many explorers before us, step over the edge, only to realize too late that there is no way back? For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains an enigma, a theoretical construct that challenges everything we think we know about the universe. If it exists, then it is the final frontier, the last great question that separates us from the true nature of the cosmos. Whether it is a gateway, a test, a warning, or something beyond our ability to comprehend, one thing is certain: when humanity finally reaches it, the answer will change everything. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then humanity faces an existential crossroads unlike any other. The question is not just whether we can cross it, but whether we should. History has shown that curiosity is one of our defining traits. Our species has always been driven to explore, to push beyond boundaries, to defy the limits imposed upon us. But if this boundary is real, then it may be different from anything we have ever encountered. It may be the first line that, once crossed, offers no return. This brings us to an unsettling thought. What if we have already encountered evidence of the barrier but failed to recognize it? The observable universe is filled with anomalies, regions where light bends in inexplicable ways, where signals suddenly drop off, where entire galaxies seem to vanish without explanation. Could these be signs of a cosmic divide, a point beyond which nothing is meant to pass? Some astronomers have noted that the distribution of galaxies in the cosmos seems strangely structured, as though there are invisible walls separating different regions of space. These vast voids, often spanning hundreds of millions of light-years, could be evidence of a force we do not yet understand, a force that defines the true shape of the universe. If this barrier is not merely a physical construct but a fundamental limit of reality itself, then what lies beyond it may be something we are incapable of perceiving. Some theorists propose that beyond the barrier, space itself could take on properties that defy known physics. Time might flow differently, matter could behave unpredictably, and consciousness itself could be altered in ways we cannot anticipate. Imagine crossing into a region of space where the very concept of individuality dissolves, where thoughts and identities merge into a singular existence beyond comprehension. Would we still be human in such a place? Or would we become something else entirely? This possibility leads to another profound question. If the barrier is a natural feature of the universe, does it serve a purpose? Could it be a mechanism designed to ensure that civilizations only advance to a certain point before they are forced to evolve, or disappear? Some physicists have speculated that the laws of the universe may be fine-tuned not just for life, but for the emergence of intelligence. If so, then perhaps the Great Galactic Barrier is the final test, a threshold that separates those who are ready to ascend to a higher state of existence from those who are not. But what if the barrier is artificial? If it was created by an advanced civilization, or even by an intelligence beyond our understanding, then its purpose becomes even more mysterious. Could it be a safeguard, a kind of cosmic quarantine meant to contain potentially dangerous forces? If so, then what is it protecting? Is it meant to keep something out, or to keep something in? There is also the disturbing possibility that the barrier is not meant for us at all. What if it was placed there long before our civilization emerged, before even our galaxy existed? If that is the case, then it means we are dealing with something far older, far more advanced, and far more powerful than anything we have ever imagined. And if we ever reach the point where we can confront this barrier directly, then we may finally come face to face with the true architects of the universe. For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the most profound mysteries of space, an enigma that challenges everything we think we know about the cosmos. But one thing is certain: if it is real, then it is not just a boundary. It is a question. A question that demands an answer. A question that, once answered, may redefine everything. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then it may be the ultimate question, one that civilizations throughout the universe must confront at some point in their development. But what if this question has already been asked before? What if countless intelligent species have reached the edge of this barrier, only to fail in their attempts to cross it? If that is the case, then where are they now? Could the absence of advanced extraterrestrial civilizations be a direct consequence of this boundary, one that enforces a kind of cosmic filter, preventing species from progressing beyond a certain level? This possibility ties into the Fermi paradox, the famous question of why we have not yet detected intelligent alien life despite the vastness of the universe. Perhaps the answer is not that civilizations destroy themselves, as some versions of the Great Filter theory suggest, but rather that they encounter something insurmountable, something that halts their expansion, whether through natural cosmic laws or intentional intervention. If the Great Galactic Barrier serves as an insurmountable threshold, then it could explain the eerie silence of the cosmos. It would mean that civilizations are either destroyed upon attempting to cross it, or they change in ways that make them unrecognizable. What if those who manage to pass beyond the barrier ascend to a different state of existence, one that removes them from our reality entirely? Could they evolve into a form that no longer requires physical matter, becoming beings of pure energy, information, or something even more incomprehensible? If so, then the universe we observe may be merely the realm of the unenlightened, a place where those who have yet to pass the test remain. There is also a more unsettling possibility. What if something is waiting beyond the barrier? If the universe is structured in a way that prevents civilizations from expanding indefinitely, then it may not be for our protection, it could be for the protection of whatever exists beyond. Perhaps the barrier is a warning, not a challenge. And if we ever find a way to bypass it, we may discover that we were never meant to. Some speculative theories suggest that the Great Galactic Barrier could be a kind of event horizon, not of a black hole, but of an entirely separate reality. If space itself is structured like a multidimensional construct, then it is possible that what we perceive as an impassable boundary is actually the edge of our own segment of the cosmos. Beyond it, the rules may change entirely. Time may cease to function as we know it, gravity may behave unpredictably, and the very fabric of existence could become unstable. If this is the case, then the Great Galactic Barrier might not be something that can be crossed in a traditional sense. Instead, it may be a fundamental divide between different layers of reality, preventing the laws of one domain from interfering with another. This could explain why no known force seems capable of moving beyond it. Perhaps the very notion of movement loses meaning at this threshold. But what if there is a way through? If civilizations have tried and failed, then perhaps they simply lack the necessary understanding. It is possible that the key to crossing the barrier lies not in technology, but in a fundamental shift in perception. If reality itself is structured according to deeper, hidden principles, then it may be that only those who achieve a certain level of knowledge, perhaps even consciousness, can move beyond. This leads to a profound question: are we meant to find the answer? If the barrier is a kind of test, then failing to solve it may mean we are not yet ready. But if we continue to push forward, to seek understanding despite the risks, then we may eventually uncover the truth. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it may be the single greatest challenge that any intelligent civilization has ever faced. It would not just be a limit imposed by physical laws. It would be an existential threshold, a moment where a species must confront the unknown in its most absolute form. The implications of such a boundary are staggering. If it exists, it raises profound questions about the nature of the universe, the purpose of intelligent life, and the ultimate fate of any civilization that dares to cross it. One of the most chilling possibilities is that the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a wall, it is a filter. It may be the cosmic mechanism that determines which civilizations advance, and which ones are forever confined to their cosmic cradle. If we assume that life is common in the universe, then it stands to reason that many species have reached this barrier before us. Yet, we see no evidence of their presence beyond it. Why? Did they fail to pass through? Did they simply vanish? Or did they encounter something that made them turn back? The absence of detectable alien civilizations beyond this supposed boundary suggests a disturbing possibility. The barrier may not just be an obstacle. It could be a final test, one that very few, if any, civilizations have survived. If this is the case, then the silence of the universe is not due to a lack of intelligent life, but rather due to the consequences of encountering whatever lies beyond. Could it be that some cosmic intelligence enforces this boundary? If so, is it an ancient race of beings who act as wardens of the universe, ensuring that only the most capable civilizations advance? Or is it something even stranger, an automated mechanism, a self-sustaining construct designed to maintain the balance of the cosmos? If the latter is true, then we may be dealing with something akin to a universal law, an intrinsic property of reality itself that determines who gets to move forward and who does not. Perhaps the barrier is not even a structure in the conventional sense. Instead, it might be a metaphysical boundary, something that cannot be overcome through brute force or technological advancement alone. If the universe is more than just a collection of physical laws, if it has layers of existence that we have yet to comprehend, then the barrier may require an entirely new form of understanding to surpass. It could demand not just knowledge, but wisdom. Not just intelligence, but enlightenment. Imagine a civilization that reaches the limit of its scientific and technological capabilities, only to discover that the final key to moving forward is not an equation or a machine, but a transformation of consciousness itself. If reality is shaped by perception, then the Great Galactic Barrier might only be real, in the sense that our minds are not yet capable of perceiving what lies beyond. What if passing through it requires a fundamental shift in awareness, one that allows a civilization to transcend not just space, but the very nature of existence? But what if this is all wrong? What if the barrier is something far more terrifying? There is another possibility, one that suggests we should not seek to cross it at all. What if the barrier exists to protect us? If we assume that the universe is a hostile place, filled with dangers beyond our comprehension, then the barrier could be a safeguard. It could be the cosmic equivalent of a locked door, one that prevents us from stumbling into something we are not prepared to face. Some physicists and cosmologists have speculated that beyond the observable universe, space itself may take on different properties. The fundamental forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, may behave in entirely different ways. If that is the case, then crossing the barrier could be equivalent to stepping into a realm where the very fabric of reality is unrecognizable. In such a place, even the most advanced civilization might find itself utterly powerless, unable to survive in an environment governed by incomprehensible laws. And then there is the most unsettling possibility of all. What if the Great Galactic Barrier is not a natural feature of the universe, but something artificial? If some ancient intelligence erected it long ago, then we must ask why. Was it meant to confine us? To keep us from expanding too far, too quickly? Or was it designed to contain something else, something that should never be allowed to cross into our reality? If this is the case, then we may be in far greater danger than we realize. It could mean that beyond the barrier, there exists something ancient and powerful, something that the architects of the barrier sought to contain. And if we ever manage to break through, we may not be stepping into a new frontier of discovery. We may be unleashing something that was never meant to return. At this point, we must confront an even deeper question. Should we even be searching for a way past the Great Galactic Barrier? Throughout human history, exploration has been driven by curiosity, by the need to push beyond boundaries and discover the unknown. But history has also shown that some boundaries exist for a reason. There are doors that, once opened, cannot be closed. If the Great Galactic Barrier is one of them, then we must ask ourselves, do we truly understand what we are risking? For now, the barrier remains a mystery. We do not know if it is real, if it is natural, or if it is something placed there with intent. But one thing is certain: if we ever find it, it will be the greatest discovery in the history of our species. It will be the moment that determines our fate, not just as explorers, but as a civilization. And when that moment comes, we will have to decide: do we cross the threshold and face the unknown? Or do we accept that some mysteries are not meant to be solved? If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then its very presence suggests that the universe operates under rules we do not yet comprehend. Could it be that this invisible threshold marks the limits of technological civilization itself? If so, then our understanding of science and physics may be woefully incomplete. The laws of the universe that we take for granted, gravity, electromagnetism, space-time itself, may not be as universal as we assume. The barrier could be a transition zone, a place where the fundamental forces of the universe shift into something entirely alien. If this is the case, then crossing it may require not just an advancement of technology, but a complete restructuring of our scientific knowledge. One possible explanation for this phenomenon lies in the nature of dark energy. This mysterious force is known to be accelerating the expansion of the universe, yet we still have no concrete understanding of what it actually is. What if the Great Galactic Barrier is a side effect of dark energy, an area where space itself warps in unpredictable ways? If this is true, then civilizations attempting to cross the barrier may find themselves lost in a void where conventional physics no longer applies. Perhaps this is why we see no evidence of advanced extraterrestrials beyond this point, because they have been scattered, disoriented, or even destroyed by the very fabric of reality shifting beneath them. Another possibility is that the barrier functions like a quantum event horizon. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation itself affects reality. If the universe behaves similarly at a cosmic scale, then perhaps the Great Galactic Barrier is a region where space only exists in a state of potentiality until it is observed by an intelligence capable of comprehending it. This could mean that civilizations which reach the barrier must fundamentally change their mode of thinking in order to continue. It would not just be a technological barrier, but a cognitive one, a test of whether a species can evolve beyond mere physical existence and into something more. But if this is true, then what kind of intelligence could possibly have designed such a system? If the Great Galactic Barrier is artificial, then we must consider the possibility that an ancient, hyper-advanced civilization put it in place. If they did, then we must ask, why? Were they trying to control the expansion of intelligent life? Were they preventing something from escaping? Or were they simply establishing a kind of cosmic test, one that only those truly ready for intergalactic travel could ever hope to pass? There is also the question of time. If the barrier is real, then it may have existed for billions of years, perhaps even since the birth of the universe itself. This suggests that it is not a recent development, but a fundamental part of cosmic structure. If so, then it may be tied to something even more mysterious, the beginning and end of the universe itself. Could it be that the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a physical threshold, but a point in time, one that marks the moment when a civilization either ascends to a higher plane of existence or ceases to exist altogether? This idea aligns with the concept of the Great Filter, the theory that there is some almost insurmountable obstacle that prevents civilizations from reaching a stage of interstellar dominance. If the Great Galactic Barrier is the final stage of this filter, then we may be facing a challenge that has wiped out countless civilizations before us. If they failed, then what does that mean for us? Is it inevitable that we too will reach this boundary only to find that we are incapable of moving forward? Or are we the first to ever come this close, humanity standing on the precipice of the greatest discovery in history? What makes this even more terrifying is the idea that if the barrier is artificial, then it must have been created by something. But where is that intelligence now? If they built it, why have they left no trace of their existence? One possibility is that they themselves failed the test. If so, then the barrier may not just be an obstacle, it may be a graveyard. A place where civilizations go to die, their ambitions leading them to an encounter that they were never meant to survive. But there is another, even more unsettling possibility. What if they succeeded? What if they passed the test and left our plane of existence entirely? If that is the case, then the Great Galactic Barrier may not be a boundary at all, but a doorway. one that leads to a place where reality itself is rewritten, where those who cross over become something entirely different from what they once were. If so, then this may be the greatest mystery of all, not just where we are going, but what we will become when we get there. For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains an enigma. We do not know if it exists. We do not know what lies beyond it. But if it is real, then it may be the single greatest challenge that humanity will ever face. It will force us to confront not just the limits of our technology, but the limits of our understanding. And when that moment comes, when we finally stand at the edge of the unknown, we will have to decide, do we cross the barrier and risk everything? Or do we turn back, forever wondering what could have been? If we assume that the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a theoretical construct but a real, tangible boundary, then we must confront the possibility that it serves a purpose, whether natural or artificial. The universe is vast, yet if such a barrier exists, it could mean that the cosmos is not as open and free as we once imagined. It could be a form of containment, an invisible wall placed between civilizations and the true depths of space. This brings us to an unsettling thought. If it is a containment field, then what exactly is being contained? One possibility is that the barrier functions as a protective measure, not for us, but for whatever lies beyond it. Perhaps advanced civilizations that attempted to pass through discovered something too dangerous, something that warranted the creation of a universal border. If this is the case, then the barrier may not be a prison but a warning sign, a last defense between sentient life and an existential threat lurking in the dark. Could it be that beyond the Great Galactic Barrier, something exists that should never be awakened? This aligns with a more unsettling version of the Fermi paradox, the idea that intelligent civilizations may deliberately remain silent out of fear. Perhaps the reason we detect no signals from other galaxies is not because they are uninhabited, but because every civilization that reached the barrier realized that beyond it, something watches, something waits. Maybe these civilizations determined that drawing attention to themselves would be the gravest mistake they could make. In this interpretation, the barrier is not just a limit, it is a boundary between safety and an unknown terror. There is also the possibility that the barrier itself is alive, or at least self-sustaining. Theoretical physics allows for the existence of structures composed entirely of energy fields or exotic matter, possibly forming a naturally occurring barrier due to the fabric of space itself. If so, then it may not be something that was built but something that simply exists as a part of the universe's structure. This raises another profound question. If the barrier is a natural feature, what is its role in the evolution of the cosmos? Could it be that the universe itself is compartmentalized, and that we exist within just one of many cosmic cells, separated by these invisible walls? If this is true, then our entire perception of the universe is flawed. We may think of space as a continuous expanse, but what if it is actually divided into vast, sealed-off regions, each hosting its own separate chain of cosmic development? If this were the case, then breaking through the barrier would be akin to opening a forbidden door, a door that may reveal an entirely new form of reality beyond anything we can comprehend. Some physicists have speculated that the nature of the barrier could be tied to the concept of a cosmological event horizon. This is similar to the way a black hole has an event horizon, a boundary beyond which no information can escape. If the Great Galactic Barrier is a form of event horizon, then any civilization attempting to cross it may find itself in a region of space where known physics no longer apply. Time could stretch infinitely, distances could become meaningless, and causality itself could break down. The very laws that allow for intelligent life might cease to function. This brings us to a more metaphysical possibility, that the barrier is not a physical construct at all, but a test. If we look at the universe as a kind of grand evolutionary mechanism, then perhaps the existence of the Great Galactic Barrier serves a purpose beyond mere separation. It may be a challenge, an obstacle designed to filter out civilizations that are not yet ready for the next stage of existence. If this is true, then it suggests that intelligence itself is not enough to surpass the barrier. Rather, a species must achieve a form of transcendence, whether intellectual or technological. This aligns with the idea that consciousness itself is the key to unlocking deeper layers of reality. If the Great Galactic Barrier exists to push civilizations beyond their current understanding, then the question becomes, what happens to those who succeed? There are many theories about what could lie beyond such a barrier. Some propose that it marks the transition to a higher dimensional reality, where civilizations evolve into something beyond physical beings. Others suggest that the barrier could be the threshold to a cosmic internet, a higher plane where only the most advanced intelligences are able to communicate and exist. If this is true, then we may be surrounded by hyper-advanced civilizations, not in the physical realm but in a dimension we have yet to access. Alternatively, the barrier could be a one-way threshold. Once crossed, there may be no way back, no way to communicate with those left behind. If this is the case, then it would explain why we detect no evidence of civilizations that have made the leap. They have simply moved on, leaving behind only silence. Could it be that the universe is designed this way on purpose, to ensure that only those who are ready can progress to the next stage? This would mean that the true nature of the universe is far stranger than we ever imagined. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, then it may not be a limit at all, but an invitation, one that has existed for billions of years, waiting for the right civilization to answer. But if we are to cross it, we must first understand what it truly is. Is it a wall keeping us confined? A test challenging us to grow? A warning urging us to stay back? Or a doorway leading to the greatest discovery in the history of intelligent life? We do not yet know. But one thing is certain: if the Great Galactic Barrier exists, then humanity is standing on the edge of the unknown. And when the moment comes to decide whether to cross that threshold, it may be the most important decision our species will ever make. If the Great Galactic Barrier is indeed real, the implications stretch far beyond just our understanding of physics and astronomy. It forces us to rethink the very nature of existence, our place in the universe, and the trajectory of intelligent life itself. Could it be that the universe is not a free and open expanse, but a structured system with limits we have yet to fully comprehend? If there is a boundary, who or what established it? And more importantly, why? One hypothesis suggests that the barrier is a natural consequence of the way the universe evolved. Just as galaxies form through the accumulation of matter, and just as black holes create regions of inescapable gravity, perhaps the cosmos itself produces structures like the Great Galactic Barrier as a fundamental aspect of its design. If so, then it may act as a kind of natural boundary between different cosmic zones, or even separate universes. This could mean that our universe is not a single, continuous space but a vast, interconnected system of separate regions, each with its own unique properties. If the barrier is a natural phenomenon, then it might be composed of exotic forms of matter or energy that we have yet to detect. Some physicists speculate that dark energy, an invisible force driving the accelerated expansion of the universe, might be involved in maintaining such a boundary. Others suggest that quantum fluctuations on an enormous scale could create a kind of space-time membrane, preventing ordinary matter from passing through. If so, then the Great Galactic Barrier may be an unavoidable feature of cosmic evolution, one that has existed since the dawn of time. But what if the barrier is not natural? What if it was constructed by an intelligence far beyond our own? This leads to a possibility even more unsettling than the idea of a natural boundary, that the universe is, in some way, regulated. If an advanced civilization, or even an ancient force, established the barrier, then it must serve a purpose. Could it be that beyond the barrier lies a region of space that is off limits? Or perhaps the barrier itself is a containment system, designed to keep something from escaping? This theory aligns with the idea that the universe may be a kind of cosmic testing ground. If civilizations must reach a certain level of advancement before they are permitted to move beyond their home galaxies, then the barrier might be a universal checkpoint, a challenge that only the most advanced species can surpass. This would suggest that intelligent life is not meant to remain in its home galaxy forever, but must earn its way into the larger cosmic community. But if that is true, then where are the civilizations that have passed the test? Why have we seen no signs of them? One possibility is that once a civilization crosses the barrier, it no longer communicates in ways we can understand. It may ascend to a higher state of existence, one that does not involve radio waves, visible structures, or even physical forms. If this is the case, then the reason we see no evidence of advanced extraterrestrials is because they have already left our plane of existence entirely. Another, more ominous possibility is that civilizations that attempt to cross the barrier do not survive the attempt. Perhaps the barrier is not meant to be passed, and those who try find themselves destroyed, or worse, transformed into something unrecognizable. If this is true, then it could explain why we have never detected signs of intelligent life beyond our galaxy. Every civilization that has reached the barrier may have been erased, leaving no trace behind. This leads to one of the most unsettling questions of all. If the barrier exists, should we attempt to cross it? If it is a natural phenomenon, then perhaps we have no choice. It is simply the next stage of cosmic evolution, a challenge we must overcome. But if it is an artificial construct, then we must consider the possibility that it was put in place for a reason. What if the civilizations that came before us discovered something so terrible that they chose to leave the barrier in place, rather than risk unleashing whatever lies beyond? This idea ties into the dark forest hypothesis, which suggests that the reason we do not hear from alien civilizations is because they are hiding. If the universe is like a dark forest, filled with unknown dangers, then the Great Galactic Barrier may be the last defense between us and an unimaginable threat. If that is the case, then the most dangerous thing we could do is to announce our presence and attempt to cross into the unknown. But there is also another way to look at it. If the barrier is a test, then it means that humanity has a future beyond its current limitations. It means that we are not alone, but part of a greater cosmic order, one that we have yet to fully understand. If we are meant to cross the barrier, then we must do so with caution, but also with the knowledge that beyond it, there may be wonders beyond our wildest imagination. For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains a mystery. We do not know if it truly exists, and if it does, we do not know what lies beyond it. But one thing is certain: if humanity continues to evolve, if we continue to push the boundaries of our knowledge, then one day, we may stand at the edge of the universe itself, looking into the unknown, and deciding whether or not to take the next step. And when that moment comes, it may be the most important decision we have ever made. If humanity ever reaches the edge of the Great Galactic Barrier, we will be faced with a decision unlike any other in our history. It will not simply be a matter of scientific exploration or technological progress. It will be a question of our very survival. Do we push forward into the unknown, risking everything to uncover the truth? Or do we heed the possibility that the barrier exists for a reason, that something on the other side is best left undiscovered? Throughout history, humankind has been defined by its desire to explore. From the first humans who left Africa to the great maritime expeditions of the Age of Discovery, we have always sought to push beyond the limits of what we know. But every journey into the unknown has carried risks. The explorers who set sail across the oceans knew they might never return. The astronauts who traveled into space understood they were entering a hostile environment. And yet they went anyway, driven by the belief that knowledge and discovery were worth the cost. If we do encounter the Great Galactic Barrier, we may be forced to confront the ultimate question: is knowledge always worth pursuing? What if the barrier is the edge of an artificial simulation, a construct designed to keep us from realizing that our universe is not what we think it is? If we break through, do we risk destabilizing the very fabric of reality? Or, in an even more chilling scenario, what if the barrier is a defense mechanism designed to prevent us from encountering something far beyond our comprehension, something that has been locked away for a reason? One particularly haunting possibility is that beyond the barrier lies a cosmic horror, something so alien and powerful that it would render our existence meaningless. Perhaps ancient civilizations discovered this entity long ago, and rather than risk its wrath, they chose to erect a barrier to keep it contained. If that is true, then humanity might be playing with forces far beyond our control. We might not be the first species to reach this point, but we could be the first to make the mistake of trying to cross it. But there is also another possibility, one filled with hope rather than fear. What if the barrier is not meant to keep us out, but rather to prepare us for something greater? If it is a test, then passing it may be the key to unlocking the next phase of existence. Perhaps the barrier only appears impenetrable because we are not yet ready to understand what lies beyond. Maybe the key is not brute force or technology, but an evolution of consciousness, an ability to perceive reality in ways we currently cannot. If so, then our journey to the barrier will not just be a physical one, but a transformation of what it means to be human. We may need to rethink the nature of intelligence, communication, and even our understanding of space and time itself. The barrier could be a doorway, one that only opens when a civilization reaches a certain level of wisdom, cooperation, or awareness. In that case, our greatest challenge will not be technological, but philosophical. Are we capable of understanding the truth of the universe? Are we ready to become something more? Some theories suggest that beyond the barrier, we may find evidence of civilizations that have already passed this test, being so advanced that they no longer exist in forms we can comprehend. If they are out there, watching from beyond the boundary, what might they think of us? Would they welcome us into a larger cosmic community, or would they see us as a species not yet ready to take the next step? Alternatively, what if the civilizations that passed the test no longer resemble anything we would recognize as life? If the barrier is a transition point, then it is possible that every species that crosses it undergoes a fundamental transformation. The beings that exist beyond the barrier may not use technology as we understand it, may not even have bodies or thoughts in the way we do. They may be energy-based life forms, or exist as pure consciousness, untethered from physical reality. If that is true, then our entire understanding of evolution, intelligence, and the universe itself may need to be rewritten. The barrier could represent the difference between material existence and something far greater, something we can barely begin to imagine. It might not be a wall keeping us out, but an invitation to join a higher state of being. But if that is the case, then why is the barrier still there? Why have we not been contacted, guided, or assisted by those who have already made the journey? Perhaps the answer lies in the same reason we do not attempt to communicate with every species on Earth. Just as humans do not seek to teach ants the complexities of our civilization, perhaps those beyond the barrier see us as too primitive to comprehend their reality. This raises another unsettling possibility. What if the barrier is there because we are not supposed to leave? Perhaps the universe is structured in such a way that life is meant to remain confined to its own domain. The great silence of the cosmos, the eerie absence of extraterrestrial signals, may not be due to the lack of life, but because no one has ever escaped their own cosmic enclosure. If this is true, then the universe may be filled with countless civilizations, each trapped within its own isolated region, unable to communicate or expand beyond its designated space. In that case, the Great Galactic Barrier is not just a mystery, it is a prison. And the real question is, who built it, and why? Is it an inherent feature of the universe itself, a natural boundary that exists as part of cosmic law? Or is it the work of an unknown intelligence, one that decided long ago that civilizations should never be allowed to spread beyond a certain point? If the latter is true, then the implications are staggering. It would mean that humanity is not in control of its own destiny. Our expansion into the stars would not be determined by our technological achievements, but by the limitations imposed by forces we cannot yet comprehend. If the barrier is artificial, then there must be a reason for it. Perhaps it is meant to prevent war, to stop civilizations from competing for resources across galaxies. Or perhaps it exists because of something far worse, something that once roamed freely, until it was finally contained. This idea aligns with another terrifying possibility. What if we are the ones being observed? If an ancient intelligence established the barrier, then they may still be watching, waiting to see what we do. Perhaps they do not intervene unless we attempt to cross it. If we stay within our boundaries, we are left alone. But if we try to break through, then we may discover the true power of those who came before us. And what happens then? Do we become part of a larger galactic order, finally proving ourselves worthy of joining the cosmic elite? Or do we provoke the wrath of something far beyond our ability to resist? As humanity continues its journey into space, these questions will only grow more pressing. We may not yet have the technology to reach the Great Galactic Barrier, But if it exists, then one day, we will find it. When that moment comes, we will have to decide whether to take the next step, or to turn back, forever wondering what lies beyond. For now, the Great Galactic Barrier remains one of the greatest mysteries of the universe. But mysteries are meant to be solved. And as long as humanity exists, we will never stop searching for answers. If the Great Galactic Barrier is real, and if it is truly an impassable boundary, then humanity's greatest test may not be one of strength, but of understanding. What if the barrier is not a simple obstruction, but a puzzle, one that requires a fundamental shift in our perception of reality? Some theories suggest that the reason we have not yet encountered extraterrestrial life is that advanced civilizations do not use conventional methods of travel. If the barrier exists, it might not be something that can be broken through by force, but rather something that can only be bypassed through an entirely different mode of existence. This could explain why we see no evidence of intergalactic empires, no signals from distant stars. Perhaps the truly advanced civilizations do not exist in the physical realm at all. Imagine a scenario where the barrier is a test, one that every intelligent species must pass before moving forward. If we continue our exploration of physics, consciousness, and the nature of space-time, we may find that the answer is not in building better spacecraft, but in fundamentally changing what we are. What if the next step in evolution is not technological, but existential? One possibility is that the barrier is a transition point between lower and higher dimensional existence. We currently perceive the universe in 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension, but what if the real answer to intergalactic travel lies in shifting our consciousness to perceive additional dimensions? String theory and other advanced physics models propose the existence of extra dimensions that are currently inaccessible to us. If the barrier is a kind of cosmic checkpoint, then perhaps it only allows passage to beings who can comprehend and navigate these dimensions. But how would we even begin to make that leap? Could it be that consciousness itself is the key? Some fringe physicists and philosophers suggest that reality, as we experience it, is a construct of the mind. If this is true, then altering our perception could alter our reality. The barrier might not be a physical wall, but a mental threshold, one that requires a new way of thinking, a new way of being. This could explain why we have yet to detect signs of other civilizations. Perhaps those who have passed the barrier no longer operate within the detectable spectrum of our reality. They may exist in a state beyond time, beyond space, or even beyond individuality itself. If true, then our idea of what constitutes life, or intelligence, may be far too limited. Alternatively, what if the barrier is an artificial construct designed by a precursor civilization? If an ancient intelligence created it, their reasons could range from benevolence to self-preservation. They may have established the barrier to protect younger civilizations from dangers beyond their comprehension, or they may have done it to protect themselves. If they are still out there, watching from beyond the boundary, then the real question is not whether we can cross it, but whether we should. This raises another terrifying possibility. What if the barrier is not meant to keep us out, but to keep something else in? Throughout human history, walls and barriers have often served a dual purpose, keeping intruders out while also keeping prisoners in. If an ancient force once roamed the universe unchecked, causing destruction and chaos, then a super-advanced civilization may have sealed it away. If that is the case, then attempting to breach the barrier could be the worst mistake in human history. If we one day approach the barrier and begin testing its limits, what might we find? Would we be greeted by a welcoming presence, ready to usher us into a new era of existence? Or would we awaken something that has been sleeping for eons, something that was never meant to be released? There is also the possibility that the barrier is self-enforcing, that any civilization that reaches it faces an inevitable choice: transcend or self-destruct. It could be that the reason we see no evidence of intergalactic civilizations is that most species never make it past this point. They either turn inward, focusing on their own evolution until they no longer need the physical universe, or they perish in the attempt to force their way through. If this is the case, then humanity's fate will be determined not by our technology, but by our wisdom. We will need to ask ourselves the most important question of all: are we ready? If we continue our expansion into space without first evolving our understanding of existence, we may find ourselves at the edge of the barrier with no way forward. But if we take the time to understand what it truly means to move beyond our current limitations, we may discover that the barrier is not a wall, but a doorway, one that only opens when we are ready to step through. And so, as we continue our search for answers, we must prepare for the greatest journey of all. The Great Galactic Barrier, if it exists, is not just a physical boundary, it is a challenge, a mystery, and perhaps even an invitation. The fate of our civilization may depend on how we choose to approach it. This video is for educational or entertainment purposes only, and information provided in the video may be incorrect. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more such amazing videos.